Hare Krishna. Welcome to this episode of Chaitanya Charitamrita. And as you can see, the screen is back. The iPad screen is back, which is always what I wanted. Um, I just figured out how to do it. It was a little tricky, but anyway, here we are. So we will start from Chaitanya Charitamrita Adilila 10th chapter, verse 106 onwards. So we are studying this chapter, which is titled "The Branches and Sub-Branches of the Disciplic Succession of Lord Chaitanya." So we'll say our Mangalacharan prayers and we will proceed. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So as I said, this iPad screen is back. Just figured out how to do it. It was a little tricky. Okay, so we will begin from where we left off. We finished on our last session at Adilila chapter 10, text 105. Now we will start from 106 today. Shankararanya Acharya Vrikshera Eka Shakha Mukunda Kashinath Rudra Upashakha Lekha. The Acharya Shankararanya was considered the 48th branch of the original tree. From him proceeded the sub-branches known as Mukunda, Kashinath and Rudra. Now, purport, it is said that Shankararanya was the sannyas name of Srila Vishwarupa, who was the elder brother of Vishwambhar, the original name of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Shankararanya expired in 1432 Shakabda or 1510 AD. That means Mahaprabhu was just 24 years old, and that's when he took sannyas. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas, his brother already passed away by then. Shankararanya expired at Sholapur in 1510 AD, where there is a place of pilgrimage known as Pandarpur. Oh, in Pandarpur, this Panduranga place. This is referred to in the Madhya Leela, chapter 9, verses 299 and 300. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhashya, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu opened a primary school in the house of Mukunda or Mukunda Sanjay, and Mukunda's son, whose name was Purushottam, became the Lord's student. Kashinath arranged the marriage. Okay, this is from him proceeded the sub branches, now Mukunda, Kashinath, and Rudra. So they are disciples of Shankararanya. Now, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu opened a primary school in the house of Mukunda, who's one of the sub branches from Shankararanya. Mukunda Sanjay and Mukunda's son, whose name was Purushottam, became the Lord's student. Kashinath arranged the marriage of Lord Chaitanya in his previous ashram when his name was Vishwambhar. Kashinath induced the court Pandit Sanatan to offer Vishwambhar his daughter. In text 50 of the Gaura Ganodesha Deepika, it is mentioned that Kashinath was an incarnation of the Brahman Kulaka, whom Satrajit sent to arrange the marriage of Krishna and Satyabhama. And in text 135, it is mentioned that Rudra or Sri Rudrarama Pandit was formerly a friend of Lord Krishna's named Varuthapa. Sri Rudraram Pandit constructed a big temple at Vallabhpur, which is 1 mile north of Mahesh, for the deities named Radha Vallabha. The descendants of his brother Yadunandana Vandyopadhyay are known as Chakravarti Thakuras, and they are in charge of the maintenance of this temple as Sevites. Formerly, the Jagannath deity used to come to the temple of Radha Vallabha from Mahesh during the Rath Yatra festival, but in the Bengali year 1262, which is 1855 AD, due to a misunderstanding between the priests of the two temples, the Jagannath deity stopped coming. Okay, so this is as you can see, it is in quotes. So this is written by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in his Anubhashya commentary of Chaitanya Charitamrita, giving some more recent history of of these places. All right, so if you maybe I suggest you all share this live stream in the chat groups or something like that, so that more people can join in. So these are some of the history of this branch. श्रीनाथ पंडित प्रभुर कृपार भजन जार कृष्ण सेवा देखे वश त्रिभुवन. Srinath Pandit, the 49th branch, was the beloved recipient of all the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Everyone in the three worlds was astonished to see how he worshipped Lord Krishna. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhashya, about 1.5 miles away from Kumarhat or Kamarhat, which is a few miles from Calcutta, is a village known as Kanchadapada, which was the home of Sri Sivananda Sena. There he constructed a temple of Sri Gaur Gopal. So actually the word Gaur Gopal means Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gopal is Gopal, Krishna. Gaur means fair, fair Krishna, who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There he constructed a temple of Sri Gaur Gopal. Srinath Pandit established another temple there with Sri Radha Krishna Murtis. The deity of the temple is named Sri Krishna Rai. The temple of Krishna Rai which was constructed in the year 1708 Shakabda or 1786 AD by a prominent zamindar named Nimai Malik of Pathuriya Ghat in Calcutta, is very large. There is a big courtyard in front of the temple, and there are residential quarters for visitors and good arrangements for cooking prasadam. The entire courtyard is surrounded by very high boundary walls, and the temple is almost as big as the Mahesh temple. Inscribed on a tablet are the names of Srinath Pandit and his father and grandfather and the date of construction of the temple. Srinath Pandit, one of the disciples of Advaita Prabhu, was the spiritual master of the third son of Shivananda Sena, who was known as Paramananda Kavikarnapur. It is said that the Krishnaraya deity was installed during the time of Kavikarnapur. According to hearsay, Veerabhadra Prabhu, the son of Nityananda Prabhu, brought a big stone from Murshidabad from which three deities were carved, namely the Radha Vallabha Vigraha of Vallabhpur, the Shamsundar Vigraha of Khadadaha, and the Sri Krishnaraya Vigraha of Kanchadapada. The home of Shivananda Sena was situated on the bank of the Ganges or Ganga, near an almost ruined temple. It is said that the same Nimai Malik of Calcutta saw this broken down temple of Krishna Rai while he was going to Benares and thereafter constructed the present temple. So that is the history of this place. Srinath Pandit is the son of Advaita, one of the disciples of Advaita Prabhu. जगन्नाथाचार्य प्रभुर प्रिय दास प्रभुर आज्ञात तेहो कोइल गंगावास. Jagannath Acharya, the 50th branch of the Chaitanya tree, was an extremely dear servant of the Lord, by whose order he decided to live on the bank of the Ganges, of Ganga. Jagannath Acharya is stated in the Gaur Ganodesha Deepika 111th verse to have formerly been Durvasa of Nidhuvan. I think it is another Durvasa, maybe. कृष्णदास वैद्य आर पंडित शेखर कविचंद्र आर कीर्तनिया षष्ठीवर. The 51st branch of the Chaitanya tree was Krishnadas Vaidya, the 52nd was Pandit Shekhar, the 53rd was Kavichandra, and the 54th was Shashtivar, who was a great Sankirtan performer. In the Gauraganodesh Deepika 171, it is mentioned that Srinath Mishra was Chitrangi and that Kavichandra was Manohara Gopi. Srinath Mishra Shubhananda Sri Rama Ishana Srinidhi Sri Gopikanta Mishra Bhagavan. The 55th branch was Srinath Mishra, the 56th was Shubhananda, and 57th was Sri Ram. The 58th was Ishana, the 59th was Sri Nidhi, the 60th was Sri Gopikanta, and the 61st was Mishra Bhagavan. Purport: Shubhananda, who formerly lived in Vrindavan as Malati, was one of the Kirtan performers who danced in front of the Rath Yatra car during the Jagannath festival. It is said that he ate the foam that came out of the mouth of the Lord while he danced before the Rath Yatra car. Ishana was the personal servant of Srimati Shachi Devi, who showered her great mercy upon him. He was also very dear to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Subudhi Mishra Hridayananda Kamala Nayan Mahesh Pandit Shrikar Sri Madhusudan. The 62nd branch of the tree was Subudhi Mishra, the 63rd was Hridayananda, the 64th was Kamal Nayana, the 65th was Mahesh Pandit, 66th was Shrikar, and 67th was Sri Madhusudan. Purport: Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhashya, Subudhi Mishra, who was formerly Gunachuda in Vrindavan, installed Gaur Nityananda deities in a temple in a village known as Belagan, or is it Belgaum? I don't know. Which is about 3 miles away from Srikhanda. His present descendant is known as Govindachandra Goswami. Purushottam Shri Galim Jagannath Das Shri Chandra Shekhar Vaidya Dvija Haridas. The 68th branch of the original tree was Purushottam, 69th was Sri Galim. The 70th was Jagannath Das, the 71st was Sri Chandrasekhar Acharya, and the 72nd was Dvija Haridas. Purport: Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhashya, there is some question about whether Dvija Haridas was the author of Ashtottara Shatanam. He had two sons named Sridham and Gokulananda, who were disciples of Sri Advaita Acharya. Their village, Kanchana Gadiya, is situated within 5 miles of the Bajarasao station, the fifth station from Ajimganj. in the district of Murshidabad in West Bengal. Now, these geographical places, in fact, I started with the Brahmana and Vaishnava book now, noting down Google Maps. So you can actually do saved maps on Google Maps, and I want to do book by book, like Chaitanya Charitamrita, all the places that are mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'll make a giant Google map of all the places, so next time we can go to pilgrimage along with the descriptions and any pastimes or anything in the Google Maps itself, so that when we go, we have a full information of everything, and in that way we can, scripturally reference every place we go. In Brahmana and Vaishnava is just, I think, about 5 places, because mostly it's about the debate of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur with the Smartha Brahmanas, and the subject of the debate itself, the essay that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wrote. So there's not much places mentioned, but Chaitanya Charitamrita has a lot of places. Um, some are mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam as well, and Ramayana, Mahabharata. We have so many places mentioned. So my plan is to make Google Maps like that, so that we can have all this information ready, and we can even plan pilgrimage trips based on these places. For example, a thematic pilgrimage um, trip based on the theme, say for example Chaitanya Charitamrita theme. So we will have a lot, hundreds and thousands of places to visit. It may be small places, but still something to visit. Depending on our time, we can see which ones are more important and which ones are not so important. So anyway, hopefully that project will be realized over time only, not immediately. All right. So next, Ramdas Kavichandra Sri Gopal Das Bhagavat Acharya Thakur Sharanga Das Saranga Das. Sorry, Saranga Das. The 73rd branch of the original tree was Ramdas, the 74th was Kavichandra, the 75th was Sri Gopal Das, um, the 76th was Bhagavat Acharya, and the 77th was Thakur Saranga Das. Purport: Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhashya. In the Gauraganodesha Deepika 203, it is said, Bhagavat Acharya compiled a book entitled Krishna Prema Tarangini, and he was the most beloved devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited Varahangar, now a suburb of Calcutta, he stayed in the house of a most fortunate Brahmana who was a very learned scholar in Bhagavad literature. As soon as this Brahmana saw Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he began to read Srimad Bhagavatam. When Mahaprabhu heard his explanation, which expounded Bhakti Yoga, he immediately became unconscious in ecstasy. Lord Chaitanya later said, I have never heard such a nice explanation of Srimad Bhagavatam. I therefore designate you Bhagavat Acharya. Your only duty is to recite Srimad Bhagavatam. That is my injunction. His real name was Raghunath. His monastery, which is situated in Varahangar, about 3.5 miles north of Calcutta on the bank of the Ganges, still exists, and it is managed by the initiated disciples of the late Sri Ramdas Babaji. Presently, however, it is not as well managed as in the presence of Babaji Maharaj. Now, we must remember that these references that are made, geographical references by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, are still about 100 years old. So he wrote these in 1920 or something like that, and now it's already 100 years later. So things might have changed a little bit here and there, but for most part, maybe not. Hopefully not. But some would have definitely probably changed. Continuing on in the purport, another name of Thakur Sarangadas was Sharanga Thakur. So Sharanga, Saranga and Sharanga. Sometimes he was also called Sharangapani or Sharangadhar. You know what is Sharanga? Sharanga is the bow of Krishna. And Sharangapani is another name of Krishna. Pani means hands. So one who holds in his hands the Sharanga is Sharangapani. Kodandapani, Ram's name. I think that is his bow, is it? I don't know what is Kodandapani. Means what? Maybe somebody can enlighten me in the comment section. He's also called Kodandapani, Ramchandra. So Saranga Thakur, he was a resident of Navadvip in the neighborhood known as Modudrumadvip, and he used to worship the Supreme Lord in a secluded place on the bank of the Ganges. Kodanda means bow. Is that so? Kodanda means bow. Is that so? Bow and arrow in hands. Really? Kodandapani means that? Like Krishna's bow is called Sharanga, the name of his bow. Just like Arjuna's bow is called Gandiva. Krishna's bow is called Sharanga. Um, but Kodanda is also bow and arrows. So continuing on, I mean, this is because I'm just reacting to this comment here by Shobha Mataji. He used to worship the Supreme Lord in a secluded place in the bank of Ganges. He was not accepting disciples, but he was repeatedly being inspired from within by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to do so. Thus, one morning he decided, whomever I see, I shall make my disciple. Oh, so he's the one. Okay, I heard the story from, I think, Subala Prabhu. Saranga Thakur, okay. When he went to the bank of the Ganges to take his bath, by chance he saw a dead body floating in the water and he touched it with his feet. This immediately brought the body to life and Sarangadas accepted him as his disciple. This disciple later became famous as Thakur Murari and his name is always associated with that of Sri Saranga. His disciplic succession still inhabits the village of Shar. There is a temple at Mamagachi that is said to have been started by Saranga Thakur. Not long ago, a new temple building was erected in front of a bakul tree there, and it is now being managed by the members of the Gaudiya Mutt. It is said that the management of the temple is now far better than before. In the Gaura Ganudesh Deepika 172, it is stated that Saranga Thakur was formerly a gopi named Nandi Mukhi. Some devotees say that he was formerly Prahlad Maharaj, but Sri Kavikarnapur says that his father Shivanand Sena does not accept this proposition. Jagannath Tirtha Vipra Shri Janaki Nath Gopala Acharya Ara Vipravani Nath. The 78th branch of the original tree was Jagannath Tirtha. The 79th was the Brahmana Sri Janaki Nath. The 80th was Gopal Acharya and the 81st was the Brahmana Vaninath. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhashya. Jagannath Tirtha was one of the 9 principal sannyasis who were Lord Chaitanya's associates. Vaninath Vipra was a resident of Champahati, a village in the district of Burdwan, near the town of Navadvip, the police station of Purvasthali, and the post office of Samudragad. The temple there was very much neglected, but it was renovated in the Bengali year 1328, which is 1921 AD, by Sri Paramananda Brahmachari, one of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's disciples, who reorganized the Seva Puja worship in the temple and placed the temple under the management of the Sri Chaitanya Mutt of Sri Mayapur. In the temple as it now exists, the deity of Sri Gaur Gadadhar is worshipped strictly according to the principles of the revealed scriptures. Champahati is 2 miles away from both Samudragad and the Navadvip station of the Eastern Railway. गोविंद माधव वासुदेव तीन भाई जास बार कीर्तने नाचे चैतन्य निताय. The 3 brothers Govinda, Madhava and Vasudeva were the 82nd, 83rd and 84th branches of the tree. Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda used to dance in their kirtan performances. Purport. The three brothers Govinda, Madhava, and Vasudev Ghosh. Oh, so Vasudeva Ghosh is here. Vasudev Datta and Mukund Datta are brothers. Now Vasudeva Ghosh, you know that song? Uh, Jaya Jaya Jagannatha Sachirananda Tribhuvan Kore Jai Charana Vandan. Last line I think you will hear. Vasudeva Ghosha Bole Kori Jod Hath Jai Gaura Shri Krishna Shri Jagannath. So that song, and I think there's another song as well, if I'm not wrong. Um, so there's another song where he says that my heart is made of stone. How has this, how has the Creator fashioned this heart with a stone in place of Vasudeva's heart? So that song is what? So this Vasudev Ghosh is different from Vasudev Datta, who asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for delivering the whole universe. That is Vasudev Datta. This is Vasudev Ghosh. Vasudev Datta and Mukunda Datta, his brother, were also very great kirtaniyas, singers. And here also looks like Vasudev Ghosh also is. And we at least have some song that we know of by Vasudev Ghosh. The three brothers, Govind, Madhav, and Vasudev Ghosh, are all belong to the Kayastha family. So this Kayastha family, if I'm not wrong, is supposedly a Shudra family or something like this, which to which Narottam Das Thakur also belongs, caste-wise. But of course, the real thing is about quality and work. So like this, many acharyas are there who belong to non-Brahmana families. So it is not at all new. Govinda established the Gopinath temple in Agradweep, where he resided. Madhav Ghosh was expert in performing kirtan. No one within this world could compete with him. He was known as the singer of Vrindavan and was very dear to Sri Nityananda Prabhu. It is said that when the three brothers performed Sankirtan, immediately Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda would dance in ecstasy. According to the Gaur Ganodesh Deepika 188, the three brothers were formerly Kalavati, Rasollasa, and Gunatunga, who recited the songs composed by Sri Vishakha Gopi. Wow. So Gunatunga must be Vasudev Ghosh. Very nice. The three brothers were among one of the 7 parties that performed Kirtan when Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu attended the Rath Yatra festival at Jagannath Puri. That is interesting. Vakreshwar Pandit was the chief dancer in their party. This is vividly described in the Madhya Leela chapter 13 verses 42 and 43. Madhya Leela 42 and 43, chapter 13. Madhya Leela. Govinda Ghosh Pradhan Koila R Sampradaya Haridas Vishnudas Raghav Jaha Gai. Lord formed another group appointing Govinda Ghosh as leader. In this group, the younger Haridas, Vishnudas, and Raghav were the responding singers. Madhav Vasudev Ghosh Dui Sahodar Nritya Korena Taha Pandit Vakreshwar. Two brothers named Madhav Ghosh and Vasudev Ghosh also joined this group as responsive singers. Vakreshwar Pandit was the dancer. Okay. रामदास अभिराम सख्य प्रेम राशि षोल संगेर काष्ठ तुली जे करिल वंशी. Ramdas Abhiram was fully absorbed in the mellow of friendship. He made a flute of a bamboo stick with 16 knots. Abhiram was an inhabitant of Khanakul, Krishnanagar. प्रभुर आज्ञाय नित्यानंद गौड़े चलिला तार संगे 3 जन प्रभु आज्ञाय आइला. By the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, three devotees accompanied Lord Nityananda Prabhu when he returned to Bengal to preach. रामदास माधव आर वासुदेव घोष प्रभु संग रहे गोविंद पाया संतोष. These three were Ramdas, Madhav Ghosh, and Vasudev Ghosh. Govind Ghosh, however, remained with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Jagannath Puri and thus felt great satisfaction. Bhagavatacharya Chiranjeev Shri Raghunandan Madhavacharya Kamalakanta Shri Yadunandan. Bhagavatacharya Chiranjeev Shri Raghunandan Madhavacharya Kamalakanta and Shri Yadunandan were all among the branches of the Chaitanya tree. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhashya, Sri Madhavacharya was the husband of Lord Nityananda's daughter, Ganga Devi. He took initiation from Purushottam, a branch of Nityananda Prabhu. It is said that when Nityananda Prabhu's daughter married Madhavacharya, the Lord gave him the village named Panjinagar as a dowry. Madhavacharya's temple is situated near the Jirat railway station on the Eastern Railway. According to the Gauraganodesha Deepika 169, Sri Madhavacharya was formerly the gopi named Madhavi. Kamalakanta belonged to the branch of Sri Advaita Prabhu. His full name was Kamalakanta Vishwas. Oh, there's a beautiful pastime of Kamalakanta Vishwas. Wait a second, I'll try to show you. You know this? This is one of the stories of chastisement. It's a very nice. Okay. So I'm reading from Adilila chapter 12, verse 28. Advaita Acharya's very confidential servant named Kamalakanta Vishwas knew all the dealings of Advaita Acharya. When Kamalakanta Vishwas was in Jagannath Puri, he sent a note through someone to Maharaj Prataprudra. No one knew of that note, but somehow or other it reached the hands of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That note established Advaita Acharya as an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But it also mentioned that Advaita Acharya had recently incurred a debt of about 300 rupees that Kamalakanta Vishwas wanted to liquidate. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became unhappy upon reading the note, although his face still shone as brightly as the moon. Thus, smiling, he spoke as follows. He has established Advaita Acharya as an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is nothing wrong in this, for he is indeed the Lord himself. But he has made the incarnation of Godhead a poverty-stricken beggar. Therefore, I shall punish him in order to correct him. Ishwarer dainya kori koryacha bhiksha, ataiva danda kori koraiva siksha. The Lord ordered Govinda, from today on, you do not allow that Bauliya, Kamalakanta Vishwas, to come here. The Bauliyas or Baulas are one of 13 unauthorized sects that pass as followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Lord ordered Govinda, his personal assistant, not to allow Kamalakanta Vishwas to come into his presence because he had become a Bauliya. Thus, although the Baula Sampradaya, Aula Sampradaya, and Sahaja Sampradaya, as well as the Smartas, Jatagosais, Ativadis, Chudadharis, and Gauranganagaris claim to belong to the disciplic succession of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord actually rejected them. When Kamalakanta Vishwas heard about this punishment by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was very unhappy, but when Advaita Prabhu heard about it, he was greatly pleased. Seeing Kamalakanta Vishwas unhappy, Advaita Acharya Prabhu told him, You are greatly fortunate to have been punished by the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, purport. This is an authoritative judgment by Sri Advaita Prabhu. He clearly advises that one should not be unhappy when reverses come upon him by the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A devotee should always be happy to receive the fortune awarded him by the Supreme Lord, which seems pleasant or unpleasant according to one's judgment. The Lord actually always does good for us, but we take it somehow this way or that way. Formally, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu always respected me as his senior. So Advaita Acharya is telling this further too. This is a conversation of Advaita Acharya with Kamalakanta Vishwas. So formerly Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu always respected me as his senior, but I did not like such respect. You see this? We want to be respected. Many, if we are not advanced, we want to be respected as a devotee, respected as like somebody important, even among devotional circles. This is a big problem with many devotees. They cannot take any chastisement at all. That means they cannot advance. They cannot advance. Formerly, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu always respected me as a senior, but I did not like such respect. Therefore, my mind being afflicted by unhappiness, I made a plan. Thus, I expounded the Yoga Vasishtha, which considers liberation the ultimate goal of life. For this, the Lord became angry at me and treated me with apparent disrespect. Purport. There is a book of the name Yoga Vasishtha that Mayavadis greatly favor because it is full of impersonal misunderstandings regarding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, with no touch of Vaishnavism. Factually, all Vaishnavas should avoid such a book, but Advaita Acharya Prabhu, wanting punishment from the Lord, began to support the impersonal statements of Yoga Vasishtha. Thus, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became extremely angry at him and seemingly treated him disrespectfully. When chastised by Lord Chaitanya, I was very happy to receive a punishment similar to that awarded Sri Mukunda. So, purport. Sri Mukunda, a great friend and associate of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, used to visit many places where people were against the Vaishnava cult. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to know of this, he punished Mukunda, forbidding him to see him again. Although Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was soft like a flower, he was also strict like a thunderbolt, and everyone was afraid to allow Mukunda to come again into the presence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mukunda, therefore, being very sorry, asked his friends whether he would one day be allowed to see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When the devotees brought this inquiry to Lord Chaitanya, the Lord replied, Mukunda will get permission to see me after many millions of years. When they gave this information to Mukunda, he danced in jubilation. And when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard that Mukunda was so patiently waiting to meet him after millions of years, he immediately asked him to return. There is a statement about this punishment of Mukunda in the Chaitanya Bhagavat Madhya Khanda, 10th chapter. I think we read this when we were reading about Mukunda. So, so chastisement. You see how they are actually receiving chastisement. This is the thing about Chaitanya Charitamrita. You will learn so many things about fine details about Vaishnava etiquette and Vaishnava thinking, Vaishnava behavior, Vaishnava life, the mindset of a Vaishnava, how he should be, and how he should deal with other Vaishnava in different kinds of situations. Whereas if you see Bhagavatam, of course there is also such um, uh, descriptions in Bhagavatam, but Chaitanya Charitamrita hits more closer to home because it is in much recent history with events that we can relate to, much closer to our events, kind of, and even among devotees. Like in Bhagavatam, there is demons, devotees, and then there is the Lord, and of course there is devotee, and instructions from say Narad Muni to the Yudhishthir Maharaj, or to Vyasadeva, or Maitreya Muni to Vidura and all that. But punishment and appreciation and um, more closer details, more intimate details are not very much mentioned. It's very formal if you see Srimad Bhagavatam. And that I'm not saying that it is wrong, of course. I mean, it's Amalam Puranam, right? It's spotless Puran. But then, in our daily life, when we are facing situations with devotees, in the company of devotees, different, sometimes favorable, sometimes seemingly unfavorable, even among devotees. But we need to know how to carry ourselves in any of those situations. And Chaitanya Charitamrita is replete with details of such incidents, with all kinds of like devotees and outsiders, government which is not so supporting, the every kind of situation almost is covered in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So therefore, it is very important, and Chaitanya Charitamrita is full with Vaishnava etiquette examples. And if we read, then we will understand how a Vaishnava should actually live. It is so unfortunate. It is so unfortunate that in recent times, I don't see devotees who have read Prabhupada's books enough. Bhagavad Gita, many devotees haven't even completed. What to speak of Bhagavatam and then Chaitanya Charitamrita? Lost the interest in reading, and that's why, and that's the reason why they cannot handle even a little bit of, um, you know, seemingly unfavorable situation. They cannot handle because they have no strength of conviction in the Shastra and in the ways of Vaishnava behavior and the Vaishnava thinking. Vaishnava songs is one way to understand the Vaishnava's thinking, where Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Narottam Das Thakur songs are extremely instructive for devotees. Um, it's a must actually for devotees to study those songs. In fact, it is good to even memorize many of those songs. It can be quoted as Vedic statements even. I myself have not memorized many of those songs, but um, this is something I plan to do as well. But there we can learn, but the actual details of behavior, what exactly happened, that is very instructive for all devotees. So please read these books. There's a wealth of information there, and it will help our practical devotional life. Don't just be a lazy devotee, chanting for the sake of chanting, doing service for the sake of show, and doing something else at other times. That's not a, I mean, in the end, we will not be benefited. And eventually, some situation will arise where we will give up altogether. You know. So, it's very hard to navigate situations in life when we don't ground ourselves in Vaishnava mindset. So, please read. So, Kamalakanta Vishwas is an example of. Oh, yeah, it's not even finished. Sorry. Okay. So when chastised by Lord Chaitanya, I was very unhappy to receive a punishment similar to that. Sorry, I was very happy. Yeah, to receive a punishment similar to that awarded Sri Mukunda. A similar punishment was awarded to Mother Shachi Devi. Who could be more fortunate than she to receive such punishment? So how come she received? So Mother Shachi Devi was similarly punished as mentioned in the Chaitanya Bhagavad Madhya Khanda chapter 22. Mother Shachi Devi, apparently showing her feminine nature, accused Advaita Prabhu of encouraging her son to become a sannyasi. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, taking this accusation as an offense, asked Sachidevi to touch the lotus feet of Advaita Acharya to mitigate the offense she had supposedly committed. So, feminine nature, what is feminine nature? Their nature is to be attached to family, home, and when somebody is taking sannyas, especially her own son was taking sannyas, she was she couldn't take the separation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in her distress. She accused Advaita Acharya. That's what apparently women do, according to the statement. You know, anything that hinders their attachment, they will see that as a curse. They will see that as something intruding their privacy or intruding their some insecurity that they will feel. So just shoot accusations. So anyway, so Sachidevi, of course, this is transcendently speaking. There's nothing wrong in that because for Sachidevi, not for us, for Sachidevi, because it is in her impending separation from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is the impending Vipralambha that will happen. In that ecstasy, she was speaking, and even if she accused Advaita Acharya of encouraging her son to become sannyas, and even if that was a fact, I think it was a fact. I don't know. So in fact, Advaita Acharya called the Lord, and Advaita Acharya also sent the Lord away. So he wrote something cryptic, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understood his cryptic message, and he understood that his pastimes were over. That is written in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So Advaita Acharya was requesting him all along. So it might be true, but that he encouraged him to take sannyas. So it is only a fact that Sachidevi um, was alluding to, but it was the resentment that she expressed against Advaita Acharya that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu considered as an offense. Of course, Sachimata cannot commit any offense. She is Yashoda Devi herself. But to teach us again. If somebody is inspiring renunciation into someone, and if the family members become inimical to the devotees who are inspiring such renunciation, then it is an offense. And by the way, I read something interesting in this book, Brahmana and Vaishnava, which I keep pointing to in the recent lectures. Um, Very nicely, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains the difference between a sin and an offense. A sin is transgression of moral conduct or a transgression of mundane rules, even if it is Vedic, materialistic rules, something to do with social consideration and that kind of thing. But offense is much more serious than sin. Offense is when it's a mistake in spiritual affairs. So the exact words were, what was the page? I don't know how to find that now. Anyway, I don't know where to find, somewhere in the end, towards the end of the book. But anyway, I'm reading it again the second time and taking all kinds of notes. So that will be out sometime. So offense is when one commits um, against spiritual rules in devotional life. So that is even more serious than sin. Okay. After pacifying Kamalakant Vishwas in this way, Sri Advaita Prabhu went to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Advaita told Lord Chaitanya, I cannot understand your transcendental pastimes. You have shown more favor to Kamalakant than you generally show to me. Now you see how Advaita Prabhu is talking to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You are showing more favor to Kamalakant than to me. That was his complaint. His complaint was that, oh, thank you, thank you for saving, standing for me. Yeah, he did a mistake, yeah. But no, he was saying the opposite. You're showing him more favor than me. The favor you have shown Kamalakant is so great that even to me you have never shown such favor. What offense have I committed at your lotus feet so as not to be shown such favor? This is a reference to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's former punishment of Advaita Acharya. When Advaita Acharya Prabhu was reading Yoga Vasishtha, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu beat him. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually beat him up. Imagine him beating somebody who is like an old man. At least on externally they were looking. He was looking like that. He actually went and beat him up. But he never told him not to come into his presence. So not to come into his presence is even worse than beating. But Kamalakanta was punished with the order never to come into the Lord's presence. Look at this. It seems just the opposite, right? Therefore, Sri Advaita Acharya Prabhu wanted to impress upon Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that he had shown more favor to Kamalakant Vishwas because he had prohibited Kamalakant from seeing him, whereas he had not done so to Advaita Acharya. Therefore, the favor shown Kamalakant Vishwas was greater than that shown Advaita Acharya. Hearing this, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu laughed with satisfaction and immediately called Kamalakant Vishwas. Advaita Acharya then said to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, why have you called back this man and allowed him to see you? He has cheated me in two ways. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard this, his mind was satisfied. Only they could understand each other's minds. I think some explanation was. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Kamalakanta, you are a Bauliya, one who does not know things as they are. Why do you act in this way? Why do you invade the privacy of Advaita Acharya and damage his religious principles? Kamalakanta Vishwas, out of his ignorance, asked the king of Jagannath Puri, Maharaj Prataprudra, to liquidate the 300 rupee debt of Advaita Acharya, but at the same time he established Advaita Acharya as an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is contradictory. An incarnation of the Supreme Godhead cannot be indebted to anyone in this material world. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is never satisfied by such a contradiction, which is technically called rasabhas, or overlapping of one humor or rasa with another. This is the same type of idea as the contradiction that Narayan is poverty stricken or Daridra Narayan, that this Ramakrishna mission has come up with. Advaita Acharya, my spiritual master, should never accept charity from rich men or kings, because if a spiritual master accepts money or grains from such materialists, his mind becomes polluted. When one's mind is polluted, it is very difficult to remember Krishna, and when remembrance of Lord Krishna is hampered, one's life is unproductive. Krishna smriti vinu hoy nishfal jivan. Mana dushta hoyle nahe Krishna smaran. This is very important verse actually. Krishna smriti vinu hoy nishfal jivan. Unproductive life. Thus, one becomes unpopular in the eyes of the people in general, and for this damages his religiosity and fame. Vaishnava, especially one who acts as a spiritual master, must not act in such a way. One should always be conscious of this fact. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave this instruction to Kamalakant, all present considered it to be meant for everyone. Thus, Advaita Acharya was greatly pleased. Only Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could understand the intentions of Advaita Acharya, and Advaita Acharya appreciated the grave instruction of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, this is the pastime of Kamalakanta Vishwas. In this statement, there are many confidential considerations. I do not write of them all, fearing an unnecessary increase in the volume of the book. Wow. So, going back all the way to the verse at hand. Oh, we've lost it. Where were we? Let's say somewhere here. We are here. 119th verse. Alright, so Kamalakant is that. महाकृपा पात्र प्रभुर जगाए माधाय पतित पावन नामे साक्षी दुई भाई. Jagai and Madhai, the 89th and 90th branches of the tree, were the greatest recipients of Lord Chaitanya's mercy. These two brothers were the witnesses who proved that Lord Chaitanya was rightly named Patita Pavan, the deliverer of the fallen souls. Purport. In the Gaura Ganodesh Deepika, it is said that the two brothers Jagai and Madhai were formerly the doorkeepers named Jai and Vijay, who later became Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Jagai and Madhai were born in respectable Brahmana families, but they adopted the professions of thieves and rogues and thus became implicated in all kinds of undesirable activities, especially woman hunting, intoxication, and gambling. Later, by the grace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Nityananda Prabhu, they were initiated and they got the chance to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. As a result of chanting, both brothers became exalted devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The descendants of Madhai still exist and they are respectable Brahmanas. The tombs of these two brothers, Jagai and Madhai, are in a place known as Ghoshahat or Madhai Talagram, which is situated about 1 mile south of Katwa. It is said that Sri Gopi Charan Das Babaji established a temple of Nitai Gaur at this place about 250 years ago. Now you see this place of Jagan and Madhai's Samadhi are there, but we never actually went to this place. So these are the places I want to actually note down everything and see in the Google Maps and find the exact location, the railway station, whatever is being mentioned usually by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and then find the place and then you know place that in the Google Maps in the saved maps, and that way have a whole record of the whole scriptural places. गौड़ देश भक्तिर कोइला संक्षेप कथन अनंत chaitanya bhakta na jai ganan. I have given a brief description of the devotees of Lord Chaitanya in Bengal. Actually, his devotees are innumerable. नीलाचले এই সব ভক্ত প্রভু সঙ্গে দুই স্থানে প্রভু সেবা কইল নানা রঙ্গে. I have especially mentioned all these devotees because they accompanied Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Bengal and Orissa and served him in many ways. Purport. Most of the devotees of Lord Chaitanya lived in Bengal and Orissa, thus they are celebrated as Gaudiyas and Oriyas. At present, however, by the grace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his cult is being propagated all over the world. And it is most probable that in the future history of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement, Europeans, Americans, Canadians, Australians, South Americans, Asians, and people from all over the world will be celebrated as devotees of Lord Chaitanya. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The International Society for Krishna Consciousness has already constructed a big temple at Mayapur, Navadvip, which is being visited by devotees from all parts of the world, as foretold by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and anticipated by Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakur. केवल नीलाचले प्रभुर जे जे भक्तगण संक्षेपे करी जे किछु से सब कथन. Let me briefly describe some of the devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri. नीलाचले प्रभु संगे जत भक्तगण सवार अध्यक्ष प्रभुर मर्म दुईजन परमानंद पुरी आर स्वरूप दामोदर गदाधर जगदानंद शंकर वक्रेश्वर दामोदर पंडित ठाकुर हरिदास रघुनाथ वैद्य आर रघुनाथ दास. दामोदर पंडित ठाकुर हरिदास Raghunath Vaidyar Raghunath Das. Among the devotees who accompanied the Lord in Jagannath Puri, two of them, Paramananda Puri and Swarup Damodar, were the heart and soul of the Lord. Among the other devotees were Gadadhar, Jagadananda, Shankar, Vakreshwar, Damodar Pandit, Thakur Haridas, Raghunath Vaidya, and Raghunath Das. Purport. The Chaitanya Bhagavat Antya Khanda, chapter 5, states that Raghunath Vaidya came to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when the Lord was staying in Panihati. He was a great devotee and had all good qualities. According to Chaitanya Bhagavat, he was formerly Revati, the wife of Balaram. Anyone he glanced upon would immediately attain Krishna consciousness. He lived on the seashore of at Jagannath Puri and compiled a book of the name Sthan Nirupan. इत्यादिक पूर्व संगी बड़ भक्तगण नीलाचले रही करे प्रभुर सेवन. All these devotees were associates of the Lord from the very beginning, and when the Lord took up residence in Jagannath Puri, they remained there to serve him faithfully. आर्जत भक्तगण गौड़ देशवासी प्रत्यब्दे प्रभुरे देखे नीलाचले आसी. All the devotees who resided in Bengal used to visit Jagannath Puri every year to see the Lord, and that was during the Rath Yatra. नीलाचले प्रभु सह प्रथम मिलन से भक्त गणे रेबे करे गणन. Now let me enumerate the devotees of Bengal who first came to see the Lord at Jagannath Puri. बड़ शाखा एक सार्वभौम भट्टाचार्य तार भग्निपति श्री गोपीनाथाचार्य. There was Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, one of the biggest branches of the tree of the Lord, and his sister's husband, Sri Gopinath Acharya. And that means his brother-in-law, and his son-in-law was Amogha. So purport, the original name of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was Vasudeva Bhattacharya. So he was given the title Sarvabhauma because he conquered the earth. One who has conquered the earth is called Sarvabhauma. So conquered the earth in the sense of debating. There was nobody who was his equal in debating until he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His place of birth, which is known as Vidyanagar, you see, his place of birth is given Vidyanagar, is about 2.5 miles away from Navadvip railway station. So he is from actually Bengal. His father was a very, very much celebrated man of the name Maheshwar Visharad. It is said that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was the greatest logician of his time in India. At Mithila in Bihar, he became a student of the great professor named Pakshadhar Mishra, who did not allow any student to note down his explanations of logic. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was so talented, however, that he learned the explanations by heart, and when he later returned to Navadvip, he established a school for the study of logic, thus diminishing the importance of Mithila. Students from various parts of India still come to Navadvip to study logic. According to some authoritative opinions, the celebrated logician Raghunath Shiromani was also a student of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. In effect, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya became the leader of all students of logic, Nyaya. Although he was a Grihastha householder, he even taught many sannyasis in the knowledge of logic. He started a school at Jagannath Puri for the study of Vedanta philosophy. of which he was a great scholar. When Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he advised the Lord to learn Vedanta philosophy from him. But later he became a student of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to understand the real meaning of Vedanta. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was so fortunate as to see the six-armed form of Lord Chaitanya known as Shadbhuj. A Shadbhuj deity is still situated at one end of the Jagannath temple. Oh, I don't remember seeing that. I don't remember many things when I go to pilgrimage and come back. After some time, the memory just fades and I don't remember almost anything that I saw. I don't know, my memory is like that. A Shadbhuj deity is still situated at one end of the Jagannath temple. Daily Sankirtan performances take place in this part of the temple. The meeting of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is vividly described in Madhya Lila chapter 6. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya wrote a book of 100 verses named Chaitanya Shataka or Sushloka Shataka. Two other verses he wrote beginning with the words Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga and Kalan Nashtam Bhakti Yogam Nijam Yaha are very famous among Gaudiya Vaishnavas. The Gaura Ganudesh Deepika 119 states that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was an incarnation of Brihaspati, the learned scholar from the celestial planets. Gopinath Acharya, who belonged to a respectable Brahmana family, was also an inhabitant of Navadvip and a constant companion of the Lord. He was the husband of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's sister. In the Gaura Ganudesh Deepika, it is 178, it is described that he was formerly the Gopi named Ratnavali. According to the opinion of others, he was an incarnation of Brahma. That's pretty far apart. Gopi, Ratnavali, and Brahma. It's quite a varied opinion. Okay, so Kashi Mishra Pradyumna Mishra Raya Bhavananda Jahar Milane Prabhu Paila Ananda. In the list of devotees at Jagannath Puri, which begins with Paramananda Puri, Swarup Damodar, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and Gopinath Acharya, Kashi Mishra was the fifth, Pradyumna Mishra the sixth, and Bhavananda Rai the seventh. Lord Chaitanya took great pleasure in meeting with them. Purport: in Jagannath Puri, Lord Chaitanya lived at the house of Kashi Mishra, who was the priest of the king. Later, this house was inherited by Vakreshwar Pandit and then by his disciple Gopal Guru Goswami, who established a deity of Radhakanta there. The Gauraganudesh Deepika 193 states that Kashi Mishra was formerly Kubja in Mathura. Pradyumna Mishra, an inhabitant of Orissa, was a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Pradyumna Mishra was born of a Brahmana family and Ramananda Rai of a non-Brahmana family. Yet Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised Pradyumna Mishra to take instruction from Ramananda Rai. This incident is described in Antilila chapter 5. So another example of birthright caste doesn't matter. Bhavanand Rai was the father of Sri Ramananda Rai. His residence was in Alalnath, Brahmagiri, which is about 12 miles west of Jagannath Puri. By caste, he belonged to the Karana community of Orissa, whose members were sometimes known as Kayasthas and sometimes as Shudras, but he was the governor of Madras under the control of King Prataprudra of Jagannath Puri. Alingana kori tare balila vachan, Tumi Pandu, Pancha Pandav, Tomara Nandan. Embracing Rai Bhavanand, the Lord declared to him, you formerly appeared as Pandu, and your 5 sons appeared as the 5 Pandavas. And that's why Ramananda Rai sometimes said that he is Arjuna, whereas sometimes he's also mentioned as a Gopi, I think Vishakha, something like that. Ramananda Rai Patanayak Gopinath, Kalanidhi, Sudhanidhi, Nayak Vaninath. So Vajrakishore Prabhu is saying, like Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj is known as Vaishnava Sarvabhauma. Vaishnava Sarvabhauma. He is the leader of the Vaishnavas of the world. Now, at his time, he did not have many disciples, Jagannath Das Babaji, but you know, just like many, even Vidura seemingly did not have any disciples, but his fame is known all over the universe. So, if we just think that this fame is just with the people of this world, that is not the case because Ebejasha Bhushuk Tribhuvan. So the fame of the devotee is the pure devotee is known in the three worlds. That means in the entire universe, the higher planetary systems, all the great devotees they are aware of. We saw the Shadbhuj deity only in the recent trip. Oh, okay. Yeah, we did not see. The five sons of Bhavanand Rai were, oh, he had five sons also. Okay, Pandu and Pandavas are all there. Ramanand Rai, Patnaik Gopinath, Kalanidhi, Sudhanidhi, and Nayak Vaninath. I don't know who is who. এই पंचपुत्र তোমার मोर प्रिय पात्र रामानंद सह मोर देह भेद मात्र. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Bhavanand Rai, your five sons are all my dear devotees. Ramanand Rai and I are one, although our bodies are different. So this is the suggestion that where Ramanand Rai is Arjun because they were the closest to each other, Krishna and Arjuna. Purport: the Gaur Ganodesh Deepika 120 and 20 to 24 states that Ramanand Rai was formerly Arjuna. He is also considered to have been an incarnation of the Gopi Lalita. Oh, Lalita, not Vishakha. Although, in the opinion of others, okay, he was an incarnation of Vishakha Devi. Okay, so everybody is here. He was the most confidential devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, although I am a sannyasi, my mind is sometimes perturbed when I see a woman. But Ramanandra is greater than me, for he is always undisturbed even when he touches a woman. Only Ramanandra was endowed with the prerogative to touch a woman in this way. No one should imitate him. Unfortunately, there are rascals who imitate the activities of Ramanandra. We need not discuss them further. In Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's final pastimes, Ramanandra and Swarup Damodar always engaged in reciting suitable verses from Srimad Bhagavatam and other books to pacify the Lord's ecstatic feelings of separation from Krishna. So they used to quote according to the feelings of the Lord. When Lord Chaitanya went to southern India, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya advised him to meet Ramanand Rai, declaring that there was no devotee as advanced in understanding the conjugal love of Krishna and the gopis. While touring South India, Lord Chaitanya met Ramanand Rai by the bank of the Godavari, and in their long discourses, the Lord took the position of a student, and Ramanand Rai instructed him. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu concluded these discourses by saying, my dear Ramanand Rai, both you and I are madmen, and therefore we met intimately on an equal level. Lord Chaitanya advised Ramanand Rai to resign from his government post and come back to Jagannath Puri to live with him. Although Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu refused to see Maharaj Prataprudra because he was a king, Ramanand Rai, by a Vaishnava scheme, arranged a meeting between the Lord and the king. This is described in the Madhya Lila, chapter 12, verses 41 through 57. Sri Ramanand Rai was present during the water sports of the Lord after the Rath Yatra festival. So after the Rath Yatra festival, the Lord, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he used to have water sports, and I think he used to have also a boat festival. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu considered Sri Ramanand Rai and Sri Sanatana Goswami to be equal in their renunciation, for although Sri Ramanand Rai was a grihastha engaged in government service and Sri Sanatana Goswami was in the renounced order of complete detachment from material activities, they were both servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead who kept Krishna in the center of all their activities. Sri Ramanand Rai was one of the 3.5 personalities with whom Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu discussed the most confidential topics of Krishna consciousness. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised Pradyumna Mishra to learn the signs of Krishna from Sri Ramanand Rai. So these 3.5 personalities they're called 3.5 because the half is actually a woman. Um, Shikhi Mahiti. Shikhi Mahiti is the brother, and his sister is I think the half. We don't know much about Shikhi Mahiti actually. Then Ramanandra is one, and another one is I think Swarup Damodar, if I'm not wrong. I think so, if I'm not wrong. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised Pradyumna Mishra to learn the signs of Krishna from Sri Ramanand Rai. As Subala always assisted Krishna in his dealings with Radharani in Krishna Lila, so Ramanand Rai assisted Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his feelings of separation from Krishna. Sri Ramanand Rai was the author of the Jagannath Vallabha Natak. Now there is it's slightly unrelated, but also related at the same time. So this Jagannath Vallabha Natak. Similarly, Natak means a drama, dramatic script. So now Jagannath Vallabha Natak was written by Ramananda Rai, and similarly Rupa Goswami wrote Vidagdha Madhava, Lalita Madhava, which are also dramas. And again, Sanatana Goswami wrote a book called Brihad Bhagavatamritam, which narrates the activities of Gopakumar, who fell down from the spiritual world and travels in this material world and eventually goes back to the spiritual world. Um, but they are seemingly fictitious. They are like drama. Like there's no um, what is that reference to many of the things that are said in those books in any of the shastra written by Vyasadeva, like in Srimad Bhagavatam or Mahabharata or anywhere else. And even if we see the song of Gaur Arati song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, um, that all the Brahma, Shiva, everybody they are doing Arati of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was sitting on the, you know, jeweled throne on the bank of the Ganga. So these descriptions are seemingly fictitious, but actually somebody wrote. I think Jiva Goswami is the one. I have to check again. He wrote on the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, especially commentary of Sanatana Goswami, where he wrote about this Gopakumar and all that. So he said that, I think he or Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So they said that although there's no reference to this in this thing, it is certainly not fictitious. These they suggested that Acharya suggested that this might be an event that took place in a different kalpa of Brahma. You see, as you know, Srimad Bhagavatam and many of the histories of Puran, many of the Puranas, they deal with incidences that happened in this particular day of Brahma. Now, Brahma lived for 50 years, and each year he has 360 days and 50 years. So many things happened, so many details we don't even know. So when Vaishnava Acharyas see some things and they write, especially pure devotees, we're talking about pure devotees, not some upstart nonsense rascal who just started chanting and is suddenly writing some imaginary pastimes. No, we're talking about actual pure devotees, like on the status of Goswamis. Now they write these things. They're actually they're they can actually see Santas Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayante. They always see Krishna. And when they see Krishna means not that he is just standing as a statue. Pastimes and everything of the Lord are always manifest in their heart. So Krishna reveals to them so many pastimes, like this Gaur Arati song, for example. That's not stated in any of the history of Chaitanya Charitamrita or Chaitanya Bhagavata or any Chaitanya Mangal or anything like that. But we have Bhaktivinoda Thakur singing like that, and we sing every evening. So this is something which we have to understand, that these are not just like dramatic performances or just a script, like imaginary script. Right? No, they are, and sometimes, for example, even in the same pastime, there may be more details. For example, I have quoted this many times that Ramayana is 25,000 verses long on Earth, but the same Ramayana in the Brahma's planet is 1 billion verses long. Same Ramayana. Now, what are why there are so many? Why are so many verses? So there are so many more details that we as humans cannot even comprehend, but which the demigods of the status of Brahma they can comprehend. So the Lord only reveals how much we can comprehend. Um, we think we know everything, after reading Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitam, but actually we are only able to know how much we are able to grasp. Other things are not even revealed to us. Just enough for us to have our attachment for Krishna. That's the whole point of writing the scriptures. So from that we can understand that these things are factual writings. In fact, um, some of the verses from Chaitanya Chandrodaya Natak, I think written by Prabodhananda Saraswati, I think. So again, these are the things, and verses are quoted from there. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told like this. But from where it is coming? Chaitanya Chandrodaya Natak. So, and Vidagdha Madhava, Krishna's statements are there. Lalita Madhava, Krishna's statements are there. How Krishna's thought of coming to the, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His thoughts started when he was in Dwarka. And these thoughts are not recorded in Bhagavatam. They're recorded in Lalita Madhava. That he saw the reflection of his own image in the palace pillar, or I think floor or something like that, and then he wanted to enjoy that form, and he was feeling the same feelings as Radharani would feel. These things are not mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, but they're mentioned in this Lalita Madhava. So there might be other details of the same Krishna's pastimes, of which only some of the portion we have been disclosed. I mean, is disclosed to us, or it may have been some from some other kalpa, but I believe it's here now. I mean, this time. So anyway, this is how we have to understand these scriptures. प्रतापरुद्र राजा आर ओढ़ कृष्णानंद परमानंद महापात्र ओढ़ शिवानंद भगवानाचार्य ब्राह्मण भगवानाचार्य ब्रह्मानंदाख्य भारती श्री शिखी माहिती आर मुरारी माहिती. Shikhi Mahiti is here. Murari Mahiti. So this Mahiti is a Oriya name. The Shikhi Mahiti is Oriya. Whereas Swarup Damodar, even Ramananda Rai, Ramananda Rai is actually also Oriya. He's not Bengali. King Prataparudra of Orissa, the Oriya devotees Krishnananda and Shivananda and Paramananda Mahapatra, Bhagavan Acharya, Brahmananda Bharati, Sri Shikhi Mahiti and Murari Mahiti constantly associated with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu while he resided in Jagannath Puri. Purport. Prataparudra Maharaj, who belonged to the dynasty of the Ganga kings and whose capital was in Cuttack, was the emperor of Orissa and a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. At that time, Orissa means it would stretch all the way to the current Tamil Nadu. Madras was also under Oriya king. I think his name is what? Prataparudra's father was Vishambhava would know all this. Forgot the name. Anyway, it was by the arrangement of Ramananda Rai and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya that he was able to personally serve Lord Chaitanya. In the Gaur Ganodesh Deepika 118, it is said that King Indradyumna, who established the temple of Jagannath thousands of years ago, later took birth again in his own family as Maharaj Prataparudra during the time of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Maharaj Prataparudra was as powerful as King Indra. The drama named Chaitanya Chandrodaya was written under his direction. Okay, so Chaitanya Chandrodaya Natak was written under his direction. But who wrote it? I think it's Prabodhananda Saraswati, I don't know. In the Chaitanya Bhagavat Antyakhanda, chapter 5, Paramananda Mahapatra is described as follows. Paramananda Mahapatra was among the devotees who took birth in Orissa and accepted Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as their only asset. In the ecstasy of conjugal love, he always thought of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Bhagavan Acharya, a very learned scholar, was formerly an inhabitant of Halisahar, but he left everything to live with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri. His relationship with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was friendly like that of a cowherd boy. He was always friendly to Swarup the Gosai, but he was staunchly devoted to lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He sometimes invited Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his house. Bhagavan Acharya was very liberal and simple. His father's Shatanand Khan was completely materialistic, and his younger brother Gopal Bhattacharya was a staunch Mayavadi philosopher who had studied very elaborately. When his brother came to Jagannath Puri, Bhagavan Acharya wanted to hear from him about Mayavad philosophy, but Swarup Damodar forbade him to do so, and there the matter stopped. Once a friend of Bhagavan Acharya's from Bengal wanted to recite a drama that he had written that was against the principles of devotional service. And although Bhagavan Acharya wanted to recite this drama before Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Swarup Damodar, the Lord's secretary, did not allow him to do so. Later, Swarup Damodar pointed out the drama's many mistakes and its disagreements with the conclusion of devotional service, and the author became aware of the faults in his writing and then surrendered to Swarup Damodar, begging his mercy. This is described in the Antilila, chapter 5, verses 91 through 158. In the Gaur Ganodesh Deepika 189, it is said that Shikhi Mahiti was formerly an assistant of Srimati Radharani named Ragalekha. His sister Madhavi was also an assistant of Srimati Radharani. So, Ragalekha and Madhavi. And was named Kalakeli. Shikhi Mahiti, Madhavi, and their brother Murari Mahiti were all unalloyed devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who could not forget him for a moment of their lives. There is a book in the Oriya language called Chaitanya Charita Mahakavya, in which there are many narrations about Shikhi Mahiti. Oh, that is interesting. I need to get some hold of Chaitanya Charita Mahakavya. One narration concerns his seeing an ecstatic dream. Shikhi Mahiti always engaged in serving the Lord in his mind. So this Madhavi Mahiti is the three and a half, the half is Shikhi Mahiti's sister. Shikhi Mahiti always engaged in serving the Lord in his mind. One night, while he was rendering such service, he fell asleep. And while he was asleep, his brother and sister came to awaken him. At that time, he was in full ecstasy because he was having a wonderful dream that Lord Chaitanya, while visiting the temple of Jagannath, was entering and again coming out of the body of Jagannath and looking at the Jagannath deity. Thus, as soon as he awakened, he embraced his brother and sister and informed them, "My dear brother and sister, I have had a wonderful dream that I shall now explain to you. The activities of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the son of Mother Shachi, are certainly most wonderful. I saw that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, while visiting the temple of Jagannath, was entering the body of Jagannath and again coming out of his body. I am still seeing the same dream. Do you think I have become deranged? I am still seeing the same dream. And the most wonderful thing is that as soon as I came near Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he embraced me with his long arms. As Shikhi Mahiti spoke to his brother and sister in this way, his voice faltered and there were tears in his eyes. Thus the brothers and sister went to the temple of Jagannath, and there they saw Lord Chaitanya in the Jagamohan Kirtan hall, looking at the beauty of Sri Jagannath deity just as in Shikhi Mahiti's dream. The Lord was so magnanimous that he immediately embraced Shikhi Mahiti, exclaiming, "You are the elder brother of Murari Mahiti." Um, Being thus embraced, Shikhi Mahiti felt ecstatic transcendental bliss. Thus, he and his brother and sister always engaged in the rendering service to the Lord. Murari Mahiti, the younger brother of Shikhi Mahiti, is described in Madhya Lila chapter 10, verse 44. What is the time? We'll go a little more. Madhya Lila 10, 44. This is Murari Mahiti, the brother of Shikhi Mahiti. He has nothing other than your lotus feet. Okay, that is all the information that we have about him. Okay. माधवी देवी शिखी माहितिर श्रीराधार दासी मध्य जार नाम गणे. Madhavi Devi, the 17th of the prominent devotees, was the younger sister of Shikhi Mahiti. She is considered to have formerly been a maidservant of Srimati Radharani. Purport. In the Antilila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 2, verses 104 through 106, there is a description of Madhavi Devi. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu considered her one of the maidservants of Srimati Radharani. Within this world, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had three and a half very confidential devotees. The three were Swarup Gosai, Sri Ramananda Rai, and Shikhi Mahiti. And Shikhi Mahiti's sister Madhavi Devi, being a woman, was considered the half. So here we have the conclusive information of who are the three and a half. Chapter 10, verse 137 of Madhila. Ramananda Rai, Shikhi Mahiti, Swarup Damodar Gosai. And then Madhavi Devi. So they are so close that even Raghunath Das and the six Goswamis are not considered as close as them. Just imagine. Three and a half very confidential devotees. So even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was sannyas, but he had this confidential associate who is Madhavi Devi. But we do not know much about what was going on between them, between these three and a half. And of course, Swarup Damodar, we have some information. Ramanandara, we have information. Shikhi Mahiti, as the previous purport says, Chaitanya Charita Mahakavya, Oriya book. There are mentions of many, history of Shikhi Mahiti is there. But Madhavi Mahiti might be there also in that book, probably. I'm guessing. So, if they are more confidential than even Haridas Thakur and even the six Goswamis who are much more famous in our Sampradaya. And we can just imagine the position of these four devotees. Okay, anyway. ईश्वरपुरीर शिष्य ब्रह्मचारी काशीश्वर Sri Govinda Namatar Priya Anuchar. Brahmachari Kashishwar was a disciple of Ishwarpuri. And Sri Govinda was another of his dear disciples. This Govinda, Ishwarpuri asked Govinda to become a servant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Sarvabhaumacharya, how can I accept my spiritual master's servant as my servant? He's supposed to be my god brother. Is this not a transgression of religious principles? Then Sarvabhaumacharya says, no, the order of the spiritual master is more important to follow. So therefore you have to take him as your servant. Although to consider one's spiritual master's servant to be one's own servant is an offense. But so that is another important instruction. That is an offense to take our god brother as our servant. But another important instruction is the spiritual master's orders cannot be disobeyed. And in that context, he quotes, the famous verses that we quote in our presentation against, for the Ritvik system against the ISKCON bogus guru system. All this happened. This is chapter 10, 138, Adilila. In Madhyalila, chapter 10, verse 136 and 137, and all the way through 144, 145. That is all about that. This Govinda. I'll just take you there and quickly. After hearing this, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, my spiritual master Ishwarpuri always favors me with paternal affection, therefore out of causeless mercy he has sent you here. After hearing this, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya asked Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, why did Ishwarpuri keep a servant who comes from a Shudra family? Both Kashishwar and Govinda were personal servants of Ishwarpuri. You see, after the Ishwarpuri's demise, Kashishwar went to visit all the holy places of India. Following the orders of his spiritual master, Govinda immediately went to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for shelter. Govinda came from a Shudra family, but because he was initiated by Ishwarpuri, he was certainly a Brahmana. See, in answer to this question, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied that his spiritual master Ishwarpuri was so empowered that he was as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As such, Ishwarpuri was the spiritual master of the whole world. He was not a servant of any mundane rule or regulation. An empowered spiritual master like Ishwarpuri can bestow his mercy upon anyone irrespective of caste or creed. The conclusion is that an empowered spiritual master is authorized by Krishna and his own guru and should therefore be considered as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. That is the verdict of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Sakshat Haritvena. An authorized spiritual master is as good as Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As Hari is free to act as he likes, the empowered spiritual master is also free. As Hari is not subject to mundane rules and regulations, the spiritual master empowered by him is also not subject. So, even if something seemingly looks like opposing Vedic injunctions, if it's given by the spiritual master, it has to be done, if it is for service of Krishna. Now, Ritvik system, they say, oh, it has never been done. So what? Prabhupada said, do it. That's it. Well, this is the answer to that. This verse. So if you see the next verse, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, both the Supreme Personality of Godhead and my spiritual master Ishwarpuri are completely independent. Actually, Prabhu ko hai Ishwar hoy Parama Swatantra. Ishwar means Supreme Personality of Godhead and also Ishwarpuri. Ishwarar Kripa nahi Veda Paratantra. Therefore, neither the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead nor that of Ishwarpuri is subject to any Vedic rules and regulations. The mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not restricted to the jurisdiction of caste and creed. Vidura was a Shudra, yet Krishna accepted lunch at his home. Lord Krishna's mercy is dependent only on affection. Sneha leshapeksha matra Shri Krishna kripar. Sneha vasha haya kore swatantra achar. Being obliged only by affection, Lord Krishna acts very independently. Okay. After saying this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced Govinda, and Govinda in turn offered his respectful obeisances unto Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lotus feet. Now, Prabhu कहे भट्टा का भट्टाचार्य करो विचार गुरुर किंकर होय मान्य से अमार. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then continued speaking to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Consider this point. The servant of the spiritual master is always respectable for me. As such, it is not befitting that the Guru's servant should engage in my personal service. Yet my spiritual master has given this order. What shall I do? Then Bhatta कहे Gurur आज्ञा होय बलवान Guru आज्ञा ना लागे शास्त्र प्रमाण. The order of the spiritual master is very strong and cannot be disobeyed. That is the injunction of the Shastras revealed scriptures. सशुश्रुवान् मातरि भार्गवेण पितुर्नियोगात् प्रहृतं द्विषद्वत् प्रत्यग्रहेदाग्रजशासनं तद् आज्ञा गुरूणां ह्यवचारणीया. Being ordered by his father being ordered by his father Jamadagni, Parshuram killed his mother Renuka just as if she were an enemy. When Lakshman, the younger brother of Lord Ramachandra, heard of this, he immediately engaged himself in the service of his elder brother and accepted his orders. The order of the spiritual master must be obeyed without consideration. This is a quotation from Raghuvamsha 1446. This Raghuvamsha is again a compilation of Ramachandra's Vamsha family, and this is a description where Ramachandra asks Lakshman to take Sita away and then leave her there in the forest. This is when she was pregnant. And so his other brothers, Ramchandra, Bharat and Shatrugna, they could not do it. But Ramchandra knew Lakshman could do it. And Lakshman remembered, because a woman should be protected, and that is the Shastric, injunction by the father, husband, and son, grown-up sons. So here she is wife of Lord Ramachandra. She is goddess Lakshmi herself, and moreover, she is pregnant. So there's no way that a woman can just be left alone like that. Still, Ramchandra ordered this. So what to do? So Lakshman remembered Parshuram, how he accepted Jamadagni's order, his father's order that, kill your mother, behead your mother. He just took out the sword, beheaded his mother. I mean, without a second thought. So, why did Parshuram kill Renuka? Amrita Nair is asking. Okay, I forgot some of the detail. Renuka, um, he thought, or I think Indra, who tried to cheat on, who came in disguise and I think violated Renuka, something like that, or he thought she had some relation. I forgot. I actually read. Let's see if I can find that. But we'll go there. Let me finish this thing. So, women should be protected. But what to speak of one's own mother? And he particularly thought of that example because his mother and Sita Devi, although wife of Lord Ram, for him he considered her a mother. Matravat Paradareshu, although it's sister-in-law, but see, Matravat Paradareshu, one must treat every woman other than one's wife as mother. And also, Lakshman never even saw nothing but the lotus feet of Sita Devi. So when Sita was being carried away by Ravan, she dropped her earrings so that people could find her if somebody was searching for her, if Ram and Lakshman were searching for her. Then Ram found the earring and he asked Lakshman, "Don't you recognize this?" I think her chudamani, her hair, this thing. So, don't you recognize this? He said, "No." Why don't you recognize? I never saw Mother Sita beyond her feet. That is Lakshman. So, because Sita Devi is mother for him, And here Parshuram treated his mother like that, according to the order of his father. So there is an example of such thing: undivided obedience, unhesitating obedience to the spiritual master. So I have to do it. So he did it. And this Raghuvamsha, this detail, this thought that Lakshman had of Parshuram is not mentioned in Ramayana itself, but is mentioned in Raghuvamsha, which is written by Kalidas, a famous poet. So Raghuvamsha is an epic poem written by Kalidas. Very, very long poem. I think it has 19 chapters or something. So everything about Ramayana stories, but sometimes some details are added here and there, and kind of book he wrote. So this is from that. So which means that book is also bona fide. If Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is quoting from that. So if we have here we can see, and then he quotes from Ramayana also, Ayodhya Kanda. The Lord Ramachandra's statement to Sita given below is from the Ramayana, Ayodhya Kanda, 22nd chapter, 9th verse. We will see that as well. So these quotations, so if you see, the order of the spiritual master is so powerful that it cannot be disobeyed. Now, spiritual master means who's coming in a proper disciplic succession. It is not somebody who just became spiritual master out of his own fantasy and imagination. We don't accept such rascals. Now, we're talking about bona fide spiritual master. Now, his order, like Prabhupada's order, has to be followed. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, hearing the example of Lakshman, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lakshman is Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Parshuram is Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there are three instances of the Supreme Personality of Godhead following the instruction of his Guru, which seemingly contradicted from Shastric injunctions. So, although nothing is against Shastra, if the Guru of such stature says something, that has to be followed. So, if somebody says, "Oh, Prabhupada, how can he institute the Ritvik system?" So what? He did it, and then you just follow it. How can Prabhupada do it? That's not your question. How can I follow? That should be your question. And also, no need to ask question. Prabhupada already mentioned everything, all the answer. So we cannot question the order of the spiritual master, even if it sounds seemingly contradictory to any established traditions or established understanding of Shastra according to our imperfect perception. That is an important lesson to learn. Now, coming to the point of, Renuka. Once, when Renuka, the wife of Jamadagni, went to the bank of the Ganges to get water, she saw the king of the Gandharvas decorated with a garland of lotuses and sporting in the Ganges with celestial women, Apsaras. She had gone to bring water from the Ganges, but when she saw Chitraratha, the king of the Gandharvas, sporting with the celestial girls, she was somewhat inclined toward him and failed to remember that the time for the fire sacrifice was passing. So she was attracted to another man. Later, understanding that the time for offering the sacrifice is past, Renuka feared a curse from her husband. Therefore, when she returned, she simply put the water pot before him and stood there with folded hands. See, she got distracted and some fire sacrifice was going on by Jamadagni, and then she came late. Vyabhicharam muni jnatva. The great sage Jamadagni understood the adultery in the mind of his wife. He was a great sage, mystic yogi, so he could understand. Therefore, he was very angry and told his sons, "My dear sons, kill this sinful woman." But the sons did not carry out his order. Jamadagni then ordered his youngest son Parshuram to kill his brothers who had disobeyed this order and his mother who had mentally committed adultery. Mentally committed adultery. Look at this. Lord Parshuram, knowing the power of his father, who was practiced in meditation and austerity, killed his mother and brothers immediately. Parshuram killed his mother and brothers. Did not even a second thought. The word Prabhavagyaha is significant. Parshuram knew the prowess of his father and therefore he agreed to carry out his father's order. He thought that if he refused to carry out the order, he would be cursed. But if he carried out his father's carried it out, his father would be pleased. And when his father was pleased, Parshuram would ask the benediction of having his mother and brothers brought back to life. Parshuram was confident in this regard, and therefore he agreed to kill his mothers and brothers. So there was some consideration Parshuram put in that order, but not that whether that action was right or wrong. But then he knew that how powerful Jamadagni was. Jamadagni, the son of Satyavati, was very much pleased with Parshuram and asked him to take any benediction he liked. Lord Parshuram replied, "Let my mother and brothers live again and not remember having been killed by me. This is the benediction I ask." Thereafter, by the benediction of Jamadagni, Lord Parshuram's mother and brothers immediately came alive and were very happy, as if awakened from sound sleep. Lord Parshuram had killed his relatives in accordance with his father's order because he was fully aware of his father's power, austerity, and learning. So we have to be similarly fully be aware of Prabhupada's power, austerity, his empowerment by Krishna. So we have to just follow it, the orders. Now, he could get his, you know, mother and brothers back, but what about the sin of killing his mother, the act itself? So it would be neutralized because he's following the order of his guru, his father. Uh, so that is the story of Renuka. So the sons of Kartavirya Arjuna, who were defeated by the superior strength of Parshuram, never achieved happiness, for they always remembered the killing of their father. So they forgot, but their sons did not forget. So Jamadagni was very powerful due to his austerities, but because of the slight offense by his poor wife Renuka, he ordered that she be killed. This certainly was a sinful act, and therefore Jamadagni was killed by the sons of Kartavirya Arjuna, as described herein. So Jamadagni was killed. Lord Parshuram was also infected by sin because of killing Kartavirya Arjuna, although this was not very offensive. Therefore, whether one be Kartavirya Arjuna, Lord Parshuram, Jamadagni, or whoever one may be, one must act very cautiously and sagaciously. Otherwise, one must suffer the results of sinful activities. This is the lesson we receive from Vedic literature. Now, this is the other side of the story also. But, of course, we're not talking about killing anyone here. We're talking about Ritvik system of actually making people surrender to Krishna through the bona fide spiritual master Prabhupada. So, the point here is Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya quoted that reference of Parshuram killing his mother by following the order of his father, Jamadagni. Similarly, we have to follow. And that's what he recommended to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to follow his spiritual master's order of accepting his god brother Govinda as his servant. So these are all important instructions, very nuanced instructions we have to understand very nicely. Oh, again we lost. Okay. Adilila, chapter 10. I think what, 120 something. We finished this, right? Yeah, we finished this. Oh, this is all finished. Where are we now? I am just getting there. Okay, Kashishwar and Govinda. Because Ishwarpuri had ordered them to give Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personal service, the Lord accepted their service. अंग सेवा गोविंद रे दिले न ईश्वर जगन्नाथ देखिते चलेन आगे काशीश्वर. Govinda cared for the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whereas Kashishwar went in front of the Lord when he went to see Jagannath in the temple. अपरश जाय गोसाई मनुष्य गर गहने मनुष्य ठेली पथ करे काशी बलवाने. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the temple of Jagannath, Kashishwar, being very strong, cleared the crowds aside with his hands so that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could pass untouched. The Kashishwar, oh, he's very strong. So that's why he went in front of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and dispersed all the devotees with his hands. रामायणंदाय दोहे प्रभुर किंकर गोविंद रसंगे सेवा करे निरंतर. Ramay, Ramay and Nandai, the 20th and 21st among the important devotees in Jagannath Puri, always assisted Govinda 24 hours a day in rendering service to the Lord. बाईस घड़ा जल देने भरे न रामाय गोविंद आज्ञाय सेवा करे न नंदाय. Every day Ramay filled 22 big water pots, whereas Nandai personally assisted Govinda. In the Gaur Ganodesh Deepika, it is stated that two servants who formerly supplied milk and water to Lord Krishna became Ramay and Nandai in the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishnadasa Nama Shuddha Kolina Brahmana Jare Sange Laya Kaila Dakshina Gamana. The 22nd devotee Krishnadas was born of a pure and respectable Brahmana family. While touring southern India, Lord Chaitanya took Krishnadas with him. Purport. Krishnadas is described in the Madhya chapters 7 and 9. I think he did some mistake there also. He went with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to carry his water pot in the Malabar state, which is in Kerala. Members of the Bhattathari cult tried to captivate Krishnadas by supplying a woman to seduce him. But although Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saved him from being harmed, when they returned to Jagannath Puri, he ordered that Krishnadas remain separate from him, for the Lord was never favorably disposed toward an associate who was attracted by a woman. Thus, Krishnadas lost the personal association of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yes. बलभद्र भट्टाचार्य भक्ति अधिकार मथुरा गमने प्रभुर जय हो ब्रह्मचारी. भक्ति अधिकारी. बलभद्र भट्टाचार्य भक्ति अधिकारी मथुरा गमने प्रभुर जय हो ब्रह्मचारी. As a bona fide devotee, Balabhadra Bhattacharya, the 23rd principal associate, acted as the brahmachari of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he toured Mathura. Usually, when sannyasis go travel somewhere, they take the brahmachari disciples with them. So, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Vrindavan through Jharkhand forest, Balabhadra Bhattacharya was there with him as brahmachari assistant, and he was the one who saw that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced in the Jharkhand forest and turned so many animals into devotees and ecstatic dancing. In fact, Charanpadi, that place is still there. I saw a video of that place, and all the marks of the animals, the paws, the snake, the stone is imprinted with those things. When they were in ecstasy, all these animals, the stone was melting, stone melted, and the paws of the animals and the snake, even the snake was like that, and that also is imprinted even in the rock even today. So I saw the video. I think you also might have seen it. So that is the Charan Pahadi. I think it's called Charan Pahadi. So that place is there in the forest where all of them danced. Purport. Balabhadra Bhattacharya acted as a brahmachari or personal assistant of a sannyasi. A sannyasi is not supposed to cook. Generally, a sannyasi takes prasadam at the house of a grahastha, and a brahmachari helps in this connection. A sannyasi is supposed to be a spiritual master and a brahmachari his disciple. Balabhadra Bhattacharya acted as a brahmachari for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when the Lord toured Mathura and Vrindavan. And of course, that story is also there. Balabhadra Bhattacharya was chastised by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because he was accepting Kaliya, Krishna and Kaliya, seeing a boatman. Everybody was saying this is Krishna, fighting with Kaliya in the Yamuna. So in this way, he was also fooled by them. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu slapped him nicely and then said, "You are considering a man as God and God as man, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is God himself. So Balabhadra Bhattacharya asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, please give me permission to see Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was like, of course, he did not say it that way. You are looking at Krishna and then thinking I am an ordinary man and then asking me to for permission to see Krishna, who is an ordinary man. So there it is stated, Prabhupada states in the purport. This is in the Madhyalila 1.18.99 through 102. That incident is there. So then he says, what is this? How can you be fooled by these people? So there Prabhupada states that if a even if a disciple is very close to the spiritual master, if he does not take the instructions of the spiritual master, then he will be bewildered and will accept man as God and God as man. Those things can happen. See? I think we will go there. We will also very instructive. Balabhadra Bhattacharya. So when the people saw Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they actually saw Krishna, but because they were following their own imperfect knowledge, they accepted the wrong thing as Krishna. They accepted the boatman as Krishna. So that is the point. भट्टाचार्य तबे कहे प्रभुर चरणे आज्ञा देह जाय करी कृष्ण दर्शने. At that time, Balabhadra Bhattacharya placed a request at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said, please give me permission to go see Lord Krishna directly. Purport. The puzzled people who visited Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were actually seeing Lord Krishna. But they were mistaken in thinking that Lord Krishna had come to Kaliya lake. They all said that they had seen Krishna directly performing his pastimes on the hoods of the serpent Kaliya, and that the jewels on Kaliya's hoods were blazing brilliantly. Because they were speculating with their imperfect knowledge, they saw Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as an ordinary human being and a boatman's light in the lake as Krishna. One must see things as they are through the mercy of a spiritual master. Otherwise, if one tries to see Krishna directly, he may mistake an ordinary man for Krishna or Krishna for an ordinary man. Everyone has to see, very important, through the mercy of a spiritual master. Everyone has to see Krishna according to the verdict of Vedic literatures presented by the self-reliant spiritual master. A sincere person is able to see Krishna through the transparent via medium of Sri Gurudev, the spiritual master. Unless one is enlightened by the knowledge given by the spiritual master, he cannot see things as they are, even though he remains constantly with the spiritual master. This incident at Kalyadaha is very instructive for those eager to advance in Krishna consciousness. तबे तारे कहे प्रभु चापड़ मारिया मुखेर मूर्खेर वाक्य मूर्ख होइला पंडित हया. Chapad Maria. Chapad means slap. Tight slap he got. When Balabhadra Bhattacharya asked to see Krishna at Kalidas, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mercifully slapped him. Mercifully slapped means, not, oh, like that, like a sissy. Nicely one tight slap. Kaan ke niche. So that his entire misconception is shaken out of his head. Like that it should be. The slap should be. So he said, you are a learned scholar, but you have become a fool being influenced by the statements of other fools. मूर्खेर वाक्य मूर्ख होइला पंडित होया. Purport. Maya is so strong that even a person like Balabhadra Bhattacharya, who was constantly staying with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was influenced by the words of fools. He wanted to see Krishna directly by going to Kalyadaha, but Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being the original spiritual master, would not allow his servant to fall into such foolishness. He therefore chastised him, slapping him just to bring him to a real sense of Krishna consciousness. So slapping is important. Again, chastisement. कृष्ण केने दर्शन दिबे खली काले निज भ्रमे मूर्ख लोक करे कोलाहले. Why would Krishna appear in the age of Kali? Foolish people who are mistaken are simply causing agitation and making tumult. So this is Shastra wise we have to see. वातुल ना हायो घरे रहतो वासिया कृष्ण दर्शन करिह खाली रात्रिय जाया. Do not become mad. Simply sit down here and tomorrow night you will go see Krishna. प्रातः काले भव्यलोक प्रभु स्थाने आयला कृष्ण देखिए आयला प्रभु ताहारे पूछिला. Next morning some respectable gentleman came to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Lord asked him, have you seen Krishna? लोक कहे रात्रिय कैवर्त्य नौकाते चढ़िया, कालिया दहे मत्स्य मारे देवटी ज्वालिया. These respectable gentlemen replied, at night in Kalia lake, a fisherman lights a torch on his boat and catches many fish. दूर होते ताहा देखी लोकेर होय भ्रम, कालियर शरीरे Krishna करिछे नर्तन. From a distance, people mistakenly think that they are seeing Krishna dancing on the body of the Kaliya serpent. नौकाते कालिया ज्ञान दीपे रत्न ज्ञाने, जालियारे मूढ़लोक Krishna करि माने. These fools think that the boat is the Kaliya serpent and the torchlight the jewels on his hoods. People some also mistake the fisherman for Krishna. Actually, Lord Krishna, Vrindavane Krishna Aila say Satya hoy. Krishna dekhila lok iha mithya noy. Actually, Lord Krishna has returned to Vrindavan, that is the truth, and it is also true that people have seen him. किंतु काहो कृष्ण देखे काहो भ्रम माने, स्थाणु पुरुषे जोइछे विपरीत ज्ञाने. But where they are seeing Krishna is their mistake. It is like considering a dry tree to be a person. So they are seeing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and they said, oh, we have seen Krishna. Actually, they have seen Krishna because they have seen Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But where they are seeing that is their mistake. So anyway, this whole pastime is there. Jangam Narayan, this is another misconception. So anyway, the story goes. So Balabhadra Bhattacharya is that. Again, I forgot the number. I don't know what I'm doing. So okay, let's go to Adi 10 again. Krishnadas. This is the one, right? No, this we have finished. Balabhadra Bhattacharya's 146. Yeah. How many verses are there in this chapter? Let's see. 164. Now we're at 146. Okay, let's see. Oh, we're already late. Okay. बड़ा हरिदास आर छोटा हरिदास दुई कीर्तनिया रहे महाप्रभुर पास. Bada Haridas and Chota Haridas, the 24th and 25th devotees in Nilachal, were good singers who always accompanied Lord Chaitanya. Chota Haridas was later banished from the company of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as stated in Antya-lila chapter 2. Ramabhadracharya are Odhra Simheshwara, Tapanacharya are Raghu Nilambara. Among the devotees who lived with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Jagannath Puri, Ramabhadracharya was the 26th, Simheshwar the 27th, Tapanacharya the 28th, Raghunath Bhattacharya the 29th, and Nilambar the 30th. Singa Bhatta, Kama Bhatta, Dantur Shivananda, Gaude Purva, Bhritya Prabhur Priya Kamalananda. Singa Bhatta was the 31st, Kama Bhatta was the 32nd, Shivananda the 33rd, and Kamalananda the 34th. They all formerly served Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Bengal, but later these servants left Bengal to live with the Lord in Jagannath Puri. अच्युतानंद अद्वैता आचार्य तनय नीलाचले रहे प्रभुर चरण आश्रय. Achyutananda, the 35th devotee, was the son of Advaita Acharya, who he also lived with the Lord Chaitanya, taking shelter of the lotus feet at Jagannath Puri. There is a statement about Achyutananda in chapter 12, verse 13 of the Adalila. Yeah, and that chapter is all about Advaita Acharya's descendants, his sampradaya. Nirloma Ganga Das Ara Vishnu Das Esa Bera Prabhu Sange Nilachale Vas. Nirloma Gangadas and Vishnudas were the 36th and 37th among the devotees who lived at Jagannath Puri as servants of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Varanasi Madhya Prabhur Bhakta Teen Jan Chandrasekhar Vaidya Ar Mishra Tapan Raghunath Bhattacharya Mishreranandana Prabhu Jebe Kashi Aila Dekhi Vrindavana Chandrasekhar Grihe Kaila Dui Mas Vas Tapana Mishrer Ghare Bhiksha Dui Mas. The prominent devotees at Varanasi were the physician Chandrasekhar, Tapan Mishra, and Raghunath Bhattacharya, Tapan Mishra's son. This Raghunath Bhattacharya is Raghunath Bhatt Goswami. So he's from Varanasi. When Lord Chaitanya came to Varanasi after seeing Vrindavan, for 2 months he lived at the residence of Chandrasekhar Vaidya and accepted prasadam at the house of Tapan Mishra, who was a seemingly born Brahmin. Purport: when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Bengal, Tapan Mishra approached him to discuss spiritual advancement. Thus, he was favored by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and received Harinam initiation. After that, by the order of the Lord, Tapan Mishra resided in Varanasi, and when Lord Chaitanya visited Varanasi, he stayed at the home of Tapan Mishra. रघुनाथ बाल्य कैल प्रभुर सेवन उच्छिष्टम अर्जुन आर पाद संवाहन. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed at the house of Tapan Mishra, Raghunath Bhatt, who was then a boy, washed his dishes and massaged his legs. Not that the boy was playing some video games. Nowadays, children, he was washing Mahaprabhu's dishes and massaged his legs, and he became Goswami. बड़ा হইলে নীলাচলে গেলা প্রভুর স্থানে অষ্টমাস রহিল ভিক্ষা দেন কোন দিনে. When Raghunath grew to be a young man, he visited Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Jagannath Puri and stayed there for 8 months. Sometimes he offered prasadam to the Lord. प्रभुर आज्ञा पाया वृंदावनेर आइला आसिया श्री रूप गोसाईर निकटे रहिला. Later, by the order of Lord Chaitanya, Raghunath went to Vrindavan and remained there under the shelter of Sri Rupa Goswami. तार स्थाने रूप गोसाई सुनेन भागवत प्रभुर कृपाय तेहो कृष्ण प्रेम मत. While he stayed at Sri Rupa Goswami, while he stayed with Sri Rupa Goswami, his engagement was to recite Srimad Bhagavatam for him to hear. As a result of this Bhagavatam recitation, he attained perfectional love of Krishna, by which he remained always maddened. Purport: Raghunath Bhattacharya or Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, one of the 6 Goswamis, was the son of Tapan Mishra. Born in approximately 1425 Shakabda or 1503 AD, he was expert in reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, and in Antilila chapter 13 it is stated that he was also expert in cooking. Whatever he cooked would be nectarian. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was greatly pleased to accept the food that he cooked, and Raghunath Bhatta used to take the remnants of food left by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Raghunath Bhattacharya lived for 8 months in Jagannath Puri, after which Lord Chaitanya ordered him to go to Vrindavan to join Sri Rupa Goswami. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Raghunath Bhattacharya not to marry but to remain a brahmachari, and he also ordered him to read Srimad Bhagavatam constantly. Thus, he went to Vrindavan, where he engaged in reciting Srimad Bhagavatam to Sri Rupa Goswami. He was so expert in reciting Srimad Bhagavatam that he would recite each and every verse in 3 melodious tunes. While Raghunath Bhatta Goswami was living with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord blessed him by offering him betel nuts offered to the Jagannath deity and a garland of tulsi said to be as long as 14 cubits. Under Raghunath Bhatta Goswami's order, one of his disciples constructed the Govinda temple. Raghunath Bhatta Goswami supplied all the ornaments of the Govinda deity. He never talked of nonsense or worldly matters, but always engaged in hearing about Krishna 24 hours a day. He never cared to hear blasphemy of a Vaishnava. Even when there were points to be criticized, he used to say that since all the Vaishnavas were engaged in the service of the Lord, he did not mind their faults. Later, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami lived in Radhakund in a small cottage. In Gaur Ganudesh Deepika 185, it is said that Raghunath Bhatta Goswami was formerly the gopi named Ragamanjari. Even when there were points to be criticized, he did not mind their faults. So that is how we peacefully stay in the association of devotees, because honestly, you will find many faults. Because everybody here is trying to advance in Krishna consciousness, and whatever it is, you know, the only place where they can be, of course, some correction have to be done, to um, get the devotees properly, doing their service and not be going in Maya. But sometimes situations come in such ways that sometimes you cannot do much about it. So we don't need to be disturbed and leave the association for that. And we need to be. That's why we have to learn tolerance. Now, just imagine we are also being tolerated. We may think we are perfect, but actually we are also being tolerated. We Krishna has tolerated us for so long. For example, um, even if somebody is not following 100%, but in the community of devotees, not all will have the same enthusiasm, the same dedication, and everything. Ideally, everybody should have. Yes, I agree. But is this an ideal place, this material world? No. And I'm the ideal person? No. So, everybody has their faults, shortcomings. We should be, even if I don't have any shortcomings, even if I consider that I don't have any shortcomings, which is actually a sign of Maya, and in the case of pure devotee, there is no shortcoming, but still we have to tolerate. You know, uh, Guru should give instructions, like there is this verse in Srimad Bhagavatam. पुत्रांश्च शिष्यांश्च नृपो गुरुर्वा मल्लोककामो मदनुग्रहार्थः इत्थं विमन्युरनुशिष्याद् अतज्ञान् न योजयेत् कर्मसु कर्ममूढान् कं योजयन्मनुजोऽर्थं लभेत निपातयन्नष्टदृशं हि गर्ते. And I'm just looking at the word-to-word translation. विमन्युः अनुशिष्यात् अतज्ञान्. See, if one is serious about going back home, back to Godhead, he must consider the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the summum bonum and chief aim of life. That's it. If he is a father instructing his sons, a spiritual master instructing his disciples, or a king instructing his citizens, or, let me add, a Siksha Guru instructing his Siksha disciples, who may be god brothers, who may be junior god brothers, or anything like that, he must instruct them as I have advised. Without being angry, he should continue giving instructions even if his disciple, son, or citizen is sometimes unable to follow his order. Ignorant people who engage in pious and impious activities should be engaged in devotional service by all means. They should always avoid fruitive activity. If one puts into the bondage of karmic activity his disciple, son, or citizen who is bereft of transcendental vision, how will one profit? It is like leading a blind man to a dark well and causing him to fall in. So, what we can do is we can instruct, we can help out. Yeah, sometimes we may be strict and show a stern face and maybe even chastise. But then again, in the heart, we should not have anger against that person because that will spoil our spiritual life, first of all. And that is not the proper way to instruct that person. So, as much as possible, compassion should be exercised and tolerance should be exercised. Not that, oh, he's not following, then, I have to be agitated. No, I have to still patiently give instruction, instruction, and again. Of course, one can show anger just to use it as a tool to get that person to change, but not that internally I bear a grudge and anger against such a person. As Jesus also said, hate the sin, not the sinner. So it is the wrong thing that we hate. And as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, when the spiritual master shouts or when the senior devotee shouts at a neophyte devotee or a non-devotee, that shouting is not anger towards that person. It is just like exorcist. When a person is haunted by a ghost, the exorcist will shout at that person, "Get out now!" But actually, he's talking to the ghost that has haunted that person. So he will talk sharply and all that. So that sharp talk is actually to drive away the Maya who's haunting that person, under whose influence he is talking and behaving in such a way which is inimical or unfavorable to Krishna consciousness. And hopefully he will become cured of that haunting and then become a proper devotee. So it is with that intention that the chastisement is done, not with any anger towards the recipient itself. So that understanding we have to have. Okay. Ragamanjari. यही मत संख्यातीत चैतन्य भक्तगण दिन मात्र लिखि सम्यक ना जाय कथन. I list in this way only a portion of the innumerable devotees of Lord Chaitanya. To describe them all fully is not possible. Now, when we say Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda, this Gaur Bhakta Vrinda include all these devotees who are mentioned here. These are all Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Vrinda means group. Gaur Bhakta, the group of devotees of all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas basically. So, and not only these mentioned here, but even now Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and all the devotees that are around us, and everybody, the entire family of devotees coming from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in all his different branches, we are offering our obeisances to them in the Panchatattva Mahamantra. एक एक शाखाते लागे कोटि कोटि डाल तार शिष्य उपशिष्य तार उपडाल. From each branch of the tree have grown hundreds and thousands of sub-branches of disciples and grand disciples. Purport. It was a desire of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that his cult be spread all over the world. Therefore, there is a great necessity for many, many disciples of the branches of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's disciplic succession. His cult should be spread not only in a few villages or in Bengal or in India, but all over the world. It is very regrettable that complacent so-called devotees criticize the members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness for accepting sannyas and spreading the cult of Lord Chaitanya all over the world. It is not our business to criticize anyone, but because they try to find fault with this movement, the real truth must be stated. So this is the thing. I think there was one question in the comment section. Vrindavaneshwari Mataji is asking, Prabhuji, when we see the devotees who are not following Ritvik system and have their own gurus, so we tend to pick up their faults that they are not following Sri Prabhupada orders. So, are we committing any offense that way, seeing faults in others? So I think the answer is here, which is this. It is not our business to criticize anyone. But because they try to find fault with this movement, the real truth must be stated. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted devotees all over the world, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur confirmed this. It is in pursuit of their will that the ISKCON movement is spreading all over the world. Genuine devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu must take pride in the spread of the Krishna consciousness movement instead of viciously criticizing its propaganda work. Now, when such glorious movement is now being occupied by, Mayavadis in the garb of devotees and worshipping conditioned souls, unauthorized gurus, and hopeless behavior being done, that is certainly bad, which happened in Gaudiya Math, by the way. And the same thing is being repeated in ISKCON, which is why we are against it, and we're in ISKM, we're against that. सकल भरिया आछे प्रेम फूल फले भासाइल त्रिजगत कृष्ण प्रेम जले. Every branch and sub-branch of the tree is full of innumerable fruits and flowers. They inundate the world with the waters of love of Krishna. I think we'll finish the whole thing today. I think it's coming to an end. एक एक शाखार शक्ति अनंत महिमा सहस्र वदने जार दीते नारे सीमा. Each and every branch of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's devotees has unlimited spiritual power and glory. Even if one had thousands of mouths, it would be impossible to describe the limits of their activities. संक्षेपे कहिलो महाप्रभुर भक्तगण समग्र बलिते नारे सहस्र वदन. I have briefly described the devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in different places. Even Lord Shesha, who has thousands of mouths, could not list them all. Shri Rupa Raghunatha Pade Jara Ash Chaitanya Charitamrita Kohe Krishna Das. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishna Das, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita following in their footsteps. Purport. Thus, in the Bhaktivedanta purports of the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, 10th chapter, in the matter of the main trunk of the Chaitanya tree, its branches and its sub-branches. So this is the 11th chapter next. So 11th chapter is about the branches and sub-branches of Nityananda Prabhu, and 12th chapter is about the branches and sub-branches of Advaita Prabhu, Advaita Acharya, in this way. So we will stop it there. And any questions or comments on this? Hare Krishna is asking, are they the unadulterated books by Srila Prabhupada? Books of Srila Prabhupada are always unadulterated. Even when they're edited, yes, although we don't accept the editing when it is contrary to the thing, the message of Prabhupada cannot be hidden because of their so-called edits. Prabhupada is not so impotent that he cannot preach when there is a so-called changed book. Understand? So, as much as we're against editing the words of a spiritual master, some of the edits are fine. Why do I say that? Because they are actually adding words. For example, in Bhagavad Gita, no, actually, first type of acceptable changes are those mistakes that were there in the original version. Okay, there were mistakes, absolute horrible, horrendous mistakes were there, and those were corrected, and that's fine. Like Goraksha is translated as cattle raising, whereas Prabhupada wanted it as cow protection. So cattle raising is in the original book, and that is not accepted because in Western countries and even now in India also, cattle raising means it's cow. It's not cow protection. It's not equal to cow protection. You can raise cattle and then you send it for slaughterhouse. So that's not cow protection. So Goraksha means cow protection and not cattle raising, right? First, and then some of the changes are actually verses being added, like Gita Mahatmya verses. Prabhupada translated in the introduction. So wherever he translated, he goes one by one all the verses. So they added the actual Sanskrit verse, which is absolutely great because I learned Gita Mahatmya from the introduction of Bhagavad Gita only, and Prabhupada, he explained those. Why not have the verse? And then the 6 aspects of surrender in 1866. That is again in the 1866 purport. Prabhupada explained, but the Sanskrit was added just before the translation. So that is good. And also the index of verses quoted at the end. So index of verses is there also in the original. In the index of Bhagavad Gita verses. In the edited version, there is also index of verses quoted in the purports, which is again very helpful for a preacher. On the other hand, and of course there are some changes which are unauthorized, which are completely not needed. But it doesn't change the meaning. It doesn't change the meaning at all. And it doesn't change the real technique. And I think the other day I was also showing this. I've repeated this many times. We have a PDF also about it. But I'm just repeating so that those of you who are you don't know how to answer this. So I'm just repeating for your benefit so that you know how to answer these things. So now in 1.5.11 purport, if you see this verse, this is a very famous verse. Tadvag visargo janatagha viplavo yasmin pratishlokam abadhavatyapinnamānyanantasya yashonkitani yad shrinvanti gayanti grinanti sadhavaha. That literature, which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, form, fame, pastimes, etc., of the unlimited Supreme Lord, is a different creation full of transcendental words directed toward bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Now, of course, we know that if we encourage the changes and then they will keep on changing everything until they are unrecognizable anymore. So we are absolutely against that. I'm not saying changes should be made. We're not saying that. But some of the changes are welcome, which are just adding references or correcting some certain mistakes that were made in the previous book. And even 724, chapter 7, text 24, completely wrongly translated in the original version. Whereas in the manuscript, the changed version is more close to the manuscript, which makes more sense, absolutely more sense. In fact, the original one sounds Mayavadi. But actually, the way Prabhupada wrote in his original manuscript, the changed version is carrying that meaning, but the original one doesn't carry that meaning. It carries the opposite meaning, that the Lord is impersonal. So that is also there. So such mistakes have been corrected. So we actually absolutely welcome those. But other things like 926 purport in the first paragraph, the whole big first paragraph was nowhere to be found. I mean, they just added it. I don't know from where. So, although there's nothing against the philosophy, but why should they add? I mean, I don't understand. They should not add that. And sometimes they change the arrangement of words and like a little bit differently. They explain. There's no need. I mean, it was clear in the original book. There's no need to do that. So, why did they do that? Not necessary. So, those kind of things. But it doesn't change the meaning. I mean, if you read the book, you will not like become un-Krishna conscious or become a demon by reading that book. You don't. And here in the purport of this verse, ah, so our presenting this matter in adequate language, especially a foreign country, will certainly fail, and there will be so many literary discrepancies despite our honest attempt to present it in the proper way. But we are sure that with all our faults in this connection, the seriousness of the subject matter will be taken into consideration, and the leaders of society will still accept this due to its being an honest attempt to glorify the Almighty God. When there is a fire in a house, the inmates of the house go out to get help from the neighbors who may be foreigners, and yet without knowing the language, the victims of the fire express themselves, and the neighbors understand the need, even though not expressed in the same language. The same spirit of cooperation is needed to broadcast this transcendental message of the Srimad Bhagavatam throughout the polluted atmosphere of the world. After all, it is a technical science of spiritual values, and thus we are concerned with the techniques and not with the language. If the techniques of this great literature are understood by people of the world, there will be success. So, this is what I want to say. So, it is a technical science of spiritual values, and that is not being refuted anywhere. So, the same thing we are learning. And the other thing is, even all the changes put together, say one book, Bhagavad Gita, there are more than 100 changes. I think more than many changes are there. Fine. So all the changes put together, the words that were changed were divided by the total words, and you carry the percentage, it will be less than 1%, say 0.5%, around there, or even less. Now, do you think that the 0.1% of changes are so powerful that they eclipse the entire 99.8%, 99.5%, or whatever of the Prabhupada's words? I mean, Prabhupada is so important that these people who make those changes, some is, to, some guru to gurus, or some he to they, if they change this, oh, the entire thing is wrong now. I mean, come on, let's be honest. And that means we don't have any faith in Prabhupada's potency, if we say like that. Or if we cannot use change books and all that. We're not saying we're not advocating for change books, but that's what we have right now. I mean, we have, yes, original books, but don't have it in an app. We wanted to make an app at one point, but that that endeavor, was not completed. Actually, we were busy preaching. So whatever tools we have, we will use. And if we want to distribute books in languages other than English, we don't have actually original books. We only have the ones printed by the BBT. Huh? So all of them are similarly changed. So what? Should we not distribute any more books in other languages? No, that's not the answer. We distribute whatever we've got and explain to them. Okay, we'll show them. Okay, this was changed. Just be careful. Just be aware of this. So that's it, and then we go on. So it's not that oh, is it changed or unchanged or unadulterated or adulterated. Whoever actually say like this, I am seeing that in their own life, they don't follow the unadulterated teachings of Prabhupada. They say unadulterated books and unadulterated books, original books. They don't follow it originally. Instructions they don't follow originally. Huh? Are you waking up for Mangalarti? That is the original instruction of Prabhupada. Are you doing it? I doubt. Every day? Mangalarati, Bhagavatam class, eating only Krishna Prasadam. Are you doing all these things? So, without doing anything, just questioning. Huh? Instead of listening to the class and understanding some Krishna conscious message, simply have fixating on some useless things which ultimately don't matter that much. Yes, we are against changing, but we don't have the BBT in our hands. Okay, we have the original books, fine, good, but on the app we don't have like that. Okay, and some of them from 11th canto and 12th canto. What about them then? They are very important verses there in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Many 11th canto verses were quoted. 12th canto contains so many instructive verses and as well as predictions of Kali Yuga, which are nowhere else to be found. So what are you going to do about it? Not going to read about it? Nonsense. So just because Prabhupada did not translate does not mean we cannot read. Prabhupada wanted them to be translated by Pradyumna after Prabhupada leaves this world. But it was not done by Pradyumna, it was done by Gopi Pranadhana and Hridayananda Das came in and they translated, referring to the previous Acharya's commentaries. So we take advantage of that commentaries, and mostly their commentaries are the ones quoted in the purports. So, and you can also test. I mean, the Sanskrit words you can see if you have read Prabhupada's book enough, then you can see that yeah, they all match. And philosophy is not anything changing at all. And another thing about so-called original bookwadis, they have printed this pocket Bhagavad Gita. It's like a very small pocket Bhagavad Gita, and they're distributing original book, original book. That is the most unoriginal book. Most unoriginal book. Why? There is no Sanskrit verse. I mean, the verse is there. There's no synonyms. Word-to-word meanings are not there. The Sanskrit script is not there. That is there in the original book. Okay, even if for, you know, making it concise, you just leave the transliteration. Okay, fine. At least the verse is there. But what about the word-to-word meaning? Every single 700 verses, every single one of the 700 verses, all the word-to-word have been removed. Is that not editing? The reason why they removed that is because they never read Sanskrit. They don't know anything about Sanskrit or verses to closely understand Prabhupada's books. They don't care. They just read the English and the superficial readers. They are the ones who made the decision that okay, word to word strip out, as if it's not necessary. Do you think Prabhupada spent so much time on translating every single word? They are discrediting all that effort of Prabhupada by just removing that and saying that this is pocket version original book. That is not original. That is completely bogus book. Not completely bogus because it's still Prabhupada purpose. Okay, you can read. I don't say that part. Yeah, but calling that as original, editing out that much, and then some here and there and edits, and they are the most poisonous books in the universe. That is absolutely unacceptable. That is rubbish. So whoever is coming with this idea of this unadulterated books and all that, you better know what this whole thing is about. In fact, I wanted to make a video for so long, and I haven't made any video about this. I have a lot to say about this subject. We already have a PDF now. We have already made it. Maybe somebody can share the PDF, but I think links can't be shared in this. Maybe the comment section as a comment you can put it after this live stream is finished. So maybe that time you can do it. So we have to be practical in advancing our mission. Whatever is available, the best available thing we have to use. So this is what we have, and then we can use it. I mean, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong at all. Okay. If somebody doesn't like it, go your way. We will go our way. Mind will accept opposite things if we reject order of spiritual master, of course. Saurav Sahu. If someone is attached to some demigod or demigoddess, will we talk about Krishna in front of them, though they aren't interested for any reason? We wouldn't know if they're interested or not unless we speak to them. And then when they show no interest, then okay, we will ask them to take a book. We'll actually ask them to take a book. Somehow or other, our convincing thing is about convincing the person to take a book and read Prabhupada's book. Somehow or other, if they say, demigod or demigod, if they go to Ganesh, Ganesh wrote the Bhagavad Gita, please read the Bhagavad Gita. We do that. In Ganesh Chaturthi, we go to the Ganesh temple. Outside, we say, Ganesh ji wrote the Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita. Please read the Bhagavad Gita here. That's what we. So, I mean, we have to say something, I mean, it's not some lie, it is the truth. I mean, so we have to say these things and, sell Prabhupada's books. That's what is needed. Divya Krishna Mataji, Prabhuji, how to go beyond feminine nature of being attached as a disciple? Is it necessary or is it fine to be feminine by nature? When you cannot change what you are. I mean, what body you have. So what the nature is there, it is there. But we have to understand that there is an inferior nature of being, feminine envy will be there, and so many. You know what is feminine nature. But if we engage in Krishna's service, that will get purified. Um, it will become congenial towards Krishna consciousness. So here you see, कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वानुसृतस्वभावात् करोति यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयेत्. This is from the 11th canto, by the way, for those original bookwadis. Please close your ears now. In accordance with the particular nature one has acquired in conditioned life. So, in accordance with the particular nature one has acquired in conditioned life, which is anusrita swabhava. See the word to word meaning. This is why word to word meaning is important. You see, anusrita according to one's swabhava, according to one's own conditioned nature. So, woman has her own nature. Everybody has their own nature, right? So we can't change everything about us, but we can change the way it is used. Huh? So, just like an artist, before Krishna consciousness, he will be an artist, and after Krishna consciousness, he may remain an artist. But previously, he used that artist for drawing useless images, and now Krishna's images. That's the difference. So it has to become congenial to Krishna's service. So, in accordance with the particular nature one has acquired in conditioned life, whatever one does with body, words, mind, senses, intelligence, or purified consciousness, one should offer to the Supreme thinking, this is for the pleasure of Lord Narayan. So, so similarly, in our case, devotees are there, female devotees, male devotees. Now, Sri Dharma has to be done by female devotees. Not that, oh, we are all now devotees, so there's no difference between male and female, so I will do like I will wear dhoti tomorrow. That's not how it works. Spiritually, the understanding is that unity in variety and diversity. So we may be diversely situated, but our single point of confluence is Krishna. So that is what is the center of our work. And all services are of the same nature, and that is also to be understood. Not that, oh, why in your temple women cannot go into the altar and all. Don't ask these crap questions, please. Yeah. In other temples we have Matajis going into the altar. In here in Singapore we don't. Some Matajis have a problem with that. So they don't understand. I mean, cooking, they are made to cook. Is that not the same as deity worship? Is any service different from other service in Krishna's service? So the understanding is not there. They don't read, and they argue. And is it congenial when men are going into the altar and woman also goes into the altar, and then they may be dealing with the same thing, and like there may be so much proximity, and like, is it you know a desirable thing? Even if the devotee is nicely dressing and all that, there may be other things that may happen. In fact, there was history that this is in Singapore many years back. Prabhujis and Matajis went into the altar and dressing deities because nobody was there. Eventually, they got married. I mean, at least they were like, unmarried before that. Um, but I mean, it starts. Anything can happen. And what if they're already married and something else happens? That is even worse. I mean, you may say, oh, how can that happen? It's all in the altar room, and it's all about Krishna Seva. Yeah, we would like to think so, but many times we have seen things can go in other ways. And that's the reason why men and women are separately situated even in the temple room. Sometimes women ask the question, hey, why are we separate from men? Are why you want to be together with men? You want to be molested or what? I mean, what is the problem? Just stay separate, na, and then participate in the kirtan. What is the problem? And something, some touching, oh, something will happen. Oh, because while dancing somewhere, something may touch here and there, and even with intention or without intention or whatever, the woman will get offended and start a whole war. We don't want that. So please don't argue. Follow whatever rules are being placed, and they're for reason, and then everything has a reason. So please don't ask these kind of questions. But I mean, I'm not saying that you are asking, but there are some people who have some problems with that. So, um, so feminine nature, for example, I mean, cooking is something a woman should know by her Stri Dharma. She should be knowing how to cook. In fact, Prabhupada said she should become MSc, not Master of Science, Master of Sabji and Chapati. So that's what she should be learning, household affairs. So that cooking service, usually in this temple, actually, no women cook. Only men cook in the temple. That is the standard. If you go to Jagannath Puri also, you will not find any woman cooking there. Men only cook. So, but Prabhupada allowed. So we have, I mean, such this thing available. So I mean, we should be glad enough. I mean, that there is opportunity to serve in the temple also. You know, so that feminine nature can be used. So anusrita swabhava. So whatever is acquired, we can use it in Krishna's service and other ways also. Many other services they can do as well. So all this is good. We're not against. But yeah, jealousy, these kind of base qualities, feminine jealousy, and all these things, these also happen. I have also seen many of that, a lot of that, even among devotees. Um, that's why. I mean, if they engage in Krishna consciousness, those will subside. We're not saying that, oh, she has this kind of quality, she has to be driven out. No, she has to be given chance. You know. Um, so that's how we have to manage. We have to manage all these things. Temple life is not simply like, don't have any problem. No, you have to deal with a lot of things. But we have to know how to adjust these things and, carry the mission forward as a family, you know, with proper amount of compassion and proper amount of strictness, everything involved. The proper combination should be there. So that is an art of management. So, Divya Krishna Mats, while not considering respect and accepting chastisement from senior spiritual masters, if we reveal our mind and that makes us look dull and or foolish and frustrating to spiritual masters, then how should we feel? Let me understand the question. While not considering respect, okay, and accepting chastisement, okay. If we reveal our mind and that makes us look dull and frustrating to spiritual masters, then how should we feel? See, basically, the process of inquiry should be. You see, I may consider myself, say, for example, foolish or, I'm a stupid or not very intelligent. I don't need to repeat this every day. In my mind, I need to know, but I don't need to say this every day to every devotee. Oh, I'm actually very stupid. I should consider myself, but don't irritate the other person coming up with this. So, so we can just see, oh, you have continued the question. Can we not see that as a disturbance by us to our spiritual masters? Yeah. So what am I saying? What I'm saying is, don't be a disturbance. Um, take the instruction, follow. If you're not clear about anything, ask, and then follow after that. Once it's clarified. Other than that, if I have any shortcomings, fine. I mean, if I is it's a problem I cannot really solve on my own, then I have to put it to whoever can help me with that. And it's not a proper shiksha guru. He will not get frustrated with that if it's a genuine request. But if it's something which is, for example, sometimes when I put AMAM questions, like they ask questions like, Prabhu, can you explain about karma? I get very irritated by such questions. I mean, honestly, what are you doing? Are you not reading Prabhupada's book? You have any particular question, about something, you read, and then something is like you want need more clarification, I'll be much more inclined to answer such questions because there was some effort being put in the part of the reader. Okay, he has read something, he has not understood. Okay, okay, that's an intelligent question. But if you just have to say, can you explain karma? If you read Prabhupada's books, you will understand. Why are you not reading? That would be my actual answer. So, that is irritating. So, if we put our effort, then actually there was an example of Prabhupada. Somebody came to Prabhupada, one of the devotees, one of his disciples, on the same day. Two different devotees came to Prabhupada, and this happened. So one devotee came to Prabhupada. He said, "I want this much money." You know, Prabhupada said, "No, no, I can't give you that." Then later on, another devotee came and then said, I need this much money for this. I mean, this much money, this and that, this much money." Then when Prabhupada saw that, Prabhupada said, "Okay." He made the arrangement with the secretary. Okay, give him that money. Why? Because he made some homework and he made some research and there's some structure on how to spend and what is the thing, everything is properly done. Not like, give me money for what, you tell me now properly. So it's not that Prabhupada did not want to give or did want to give. Both came for service. Not that they were asking for their own personal thing, they were asking for Krishna's service. Yeah, but one came without a plan, like without nothing in his head, whereas the other had a plan and has a more itemized, a more clear understanding of what he's going to spend with, and that's how he wanted his devotees to become. That's an example where he gave the money to him. Yes, okay, you give him this much. So that's how we have to conduct ourselves. Like, we have to make some effort first. We have to put in some effort, and then yes, ask on top of that. Yes, that will be more fruitful. Okay. Saurav Saho, I want to know about a thing. The thing is, ghost possess someone's body. Is this true or hoax? One of my aunt actually several times in past possessed by ghosts, they say, or is this some superstition? Please answer this because my family relative is actually a victim of it. Yeah, ghost haunting is a thing. It can happen. But if you chant Hare Krishna, ghost will go away. So yeah, ghost haunting, it happens. Ghosts do that. So yeah, what else you want to know? It's not just superstition. Sometimes they fake it. I mean, some people fake it sometimes, but there is such a thing as ghosts possessing human body. That's there. Sometimes some people may tell cock and bull stories. That's another thing. So I think hopefully that has answered all the questions, and thank you all very much. Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, श्री प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंद, हरि हरि बोल, हरे कृष्ण।